When the instructor at the Demon Hunter Academy calls Ong into the arena, everyone thinks this weak-looking rookie is finally about to be exposed. And from the very first move, the instructor makes it clear that this is not a normal test. He rushes forward with terrifying strength and smashes the arena floor apart, while Ong barely manages to dodge. But before Ong can even recover, the second attack comes crashing toward him even faster. The instructor keeps pushing him back again and again, giving him no room to breathe, and then grabs him by the throat before sending him flying straight into the wall. The hunters watching instantly go silent, and even the other instructors begin to worry that the duel has gone too far. To everyone there, Ong looks finished, like just another weak student who only survived because of luck. But then Ong gets back up. No fear, no panic, just a cold look in his eyes. Because until now, he was not trying to win. He was trying to hide what was inside him. As the dust clears, a crimson aura starts leaking from his body, and the instructor freezes for the first time. Because this is not the aura of a normal hunter. This is the pressure of the strongest demon alive. Then Ong moves so fast that the instructor barely blocks the first strike, but it was only a feint. In the next instant, Ong slips past his guard, destroys his balance, and lands a clean blow. A few attacks later, the instructor is on the ground, and every hunter watching is left speechless. Because the weak rookie they underestimated just defeated a squadron leader without even using his full power. But none of them know the truth. This boy is actually Ong, humanity's strongest warrior from 60 years ago. And after dying in the final demon war, he woke up inside this weak body, carrying the core of the strongest demon in the world. So how did humanity's greatest demon killer become the vessel of a demon king? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. Ong steps onto the sync machine looking so weak that everyone in the academy already treats him like trash. The commanders mock his body, and that humiliation hits even harder because this machine decides everything. It measures your synchronization with demonic power, the one result that proves whether you're an elite warrior, or just worthless. That's why when Situlu gets praised for her number, the whole academy starts acting like she's special. But the moment the test begins for Ong, the entire mood in the room changes. The readings start rising higher and higher, a terrifying pressure starts pouring out of his body, and the same people who were just laughing at him can only stare in shock as his aura crushes the hall. He's the monster that just made every top hunter in that academy look ordinary. A bloody hand clutches a red crystal. In the end, it all comes down to this single moment of failure. Humanity's strongest warrior lies broken in the jagged dirt, his body completely shattered and his lungs filling with the metallic taste of blood. He managed to slaughter every last seven-fin demon, leaving a mountain of twisted corpses in his wake. It was supposed to be the final, glorious victory for all of mankind. Instead, the man known as the ultimate protector can only stare at the gray sky, waiting for the cold dark to take him. The cost was far too high. He is dying alone in the silence. A massive shadow looms over the warrior. Just as his eyes start to glaze over, the ground begins to tremble under a weight that shouldn't exist. He realizes with absolute horror that the ancient records were completely wrong. Hidden within the isteel of the ancient king, a monstrous 8-fin demon emerges from the choking smoke. This creature is far more terrifying than anything he has ever faced. The warrior's hand trembles as the reality of his mistake sets in. He failed to understand the true depth of their power. This isn't just a simple oversight, it's a death sentence for the human race. Red eyes glow in the thick smoke. The beast towers over him with glowing yellow eyes that radiate pure, unfiltered malice. He desperately tries to move his fingers, but every muscle in his body is shredded and his mana is spent. Watching helplessly, he sees the demon raise its massive claw for the final killing blow. There is no hope left for a hero who has already given everything to a lost cause. One final, blinding strike tears through the air, erasing the last of his consciousness. Everything goes white as the strongest warrior is snuffed out like a flickering candle. Dark claw looms over a dying warrior. He waits for the final agony, wondering if the demon intends to feast on his soul as revenge for the thousands of subordinates he slaughtered. But the void doesn't stay black for long. A single point of light pierces the darkness, expanding until it consumes his entire field of vision. This isn't the cold end he prepared for, it's a roaring, white-hot sun. The blinding glare swallows his consciousness, erasing the memory of the battlefield and the smell of death. Heavy boots stomp on a cold floor. A thunderous shout of salute vibrates through the air, forcing his eyes wide open as his instincts scream at him to move. He isn't in the abyss anymore. He is standing in a massive, industrial hall filled with rows of rigid, disciplined soldiers. The confusion hits him harder than any demonic strike he ever endured. He was just a legendary hero in his final moments, but now he is surrounded by a metallic, high-tech environment. This is a world of cold steel, a far cry from the chaotic war zone he once ruled. Thin hands tremble against a pale face. He frantically feels his jaw and chest, searching for the rugged, battle-hardened muscles he spent a lifetime building. They have completely vanished. His powerful physique has been replaced by the the scrawny, pathetic frame of an underdeveloped teenager. The shock of the transformation makes him want to scream as he realizes he's been completely stat-checked by fate. He looks down at his weak limbs, feeling the crushing weight of this new reality. The strongest warrior in the world is now trapped in the body of a bottom-tier recruit, and the road back to the top looks impossibly long. A scarred commander addresses a line of recruits. Ji Yao Tang, the leader of the 3rd Squadron in Helio City, towers over the new blood with an iron gaze. He begins a history lesson that every survivor knows by heart. Back in 3069, the world ended when the 6 steels of the ancient king cracked open. Thousands of demons flooded out, turning cities into slaughterhouses. Human flesh was nothing more than a snack for these monsters. Scientists harvest a glowing red core from a beast. Desperation eventually bred a brutal kind of innovation. Humanity realized they couldn't win with steel alone, so they developed grafting equipment. By ripping the internal cores out of fallen demons, they found a way to bridge the power gap. This tech allowed them to fuse monster essence into human bodies. It was a suicide gamble that actually paid off. They turned themselves into the very things they feared just to survive. A dark silhouette stands amidst swirling shadows. 60 years ago, one man stood above the rest. His name was Ong, the strongest soldier to ever draw breath. He took command of every warrior on the planet, leading a final, desperate charge against the endless demon tide. The battle raged for weeks, a meat grinder of blood and shattered bone. For a time, it looked like humanity would be completely erased from existence. Ong was the only wall standing between his people and total extinction. A wide, golden eye stares in absolute disbelief. The commander's voice fades as the truth hits like a physical blow. That war supposedly ended 60 years ago, bought with the blood of the heroes who fell. The peace everyone enjoys now was the price of Aang's final stand. But for the boy standing in this lineup, the memories of that battle are still fresh. He isn't just hearing a history lesson, he's realizing he's been dead for 6 decades. The legendary Aang has just woken up in a future that already forgot his face and his sacrifice. Aang stands atop a mountain of corpses. The instructor continues his speech, mourning the loss of the warriors who paved the way. He names Aang as the strongest spear humanity ever produced, a legend lost to the void. To the recruits, these are just stories to fuel their ambition. But for the boy in the back, the image of that bloody battlefield is still stained behind his eyelids. He knows the peace they enjoy was bought with a currency these children can't count. Recruits salute and shout in perfect unison. The hall echoes with the scream of, "Yes, sir," as they embrace their roles as the new pillars of hope. They see themselves as protectors of a golden age. One boy remains silent, staring at the floor as his mind drifts back to the finned ones. He whispers the name of the demons he once slaughtered, his voice a low, raspy murmur. This modern version of war feels like a sanitized play compared to the gritty reality he remembers. The scarred instructor looms over the boy. He stops his march, sensing the lack of discipline in the quiet recruit. He growls that the boy clearly doesn't understand what it truly means to be a warrior. The social hierarchy of the room shifts as the other recruits distance themselves from the target of the commander's ire. With a mechanical eye whirring, the man leans in close. He demands to know the boy's name, his presence meant to crush any lingering defiance. Aang looks up with sharp, golden eyes. The pressure in the room spikes as the boy considers his response. Dropping the name of a dead legend would shatter the reality of everyone in this building. He weighs the truth against his current frail body. The instructor freezes, his arrogant sneer faltering into a look of pure bewilderment. He sees a flicker of something ancient in the recruit's gaze. This isn't just a boy, it's a ghost from the front lines. The instructor's massive hand clamps down. He roars about desecrating a legend's name before slamming the boy into the cold concrete with bone-shattering force. Dust and blood spray as the floor cracks under the sheer weight of the assault. The boy gasps for air, his vision swimming while he curses this pathetic, fragile shell. He couldn't even track a basic strike from a low-level drill sergeant. It is a humiliating realization that his mind is a fortress of experience, but his current muscles are nothing but glass. The instructor turns his back. He dismisses the broken recruit like yesterday's garbage, his barked orders echoing through the sterile hall. The rest of the unit snaps to attention, their heavy boots thumping in a rhythm of fear and discipline. They are commanded to march toward the official warrior examination grounds immediately. This is the final filter designed to weed out the weak and the useless. Every recruit follows the harsh light pouring through the massive exit doors, leaving the boy behind in the dirt. Lon Sinuo reaches down with a smirk. He pulls the boy up from the floor, but his eyes are filled with nothing but pure condescension. He scoffs at the idea of a bottom-tier loser sharing the same name as the legendary Aang. Around them, the other candidates whisper and sneer, their judgments cutting deeper than the physical blows. To this crowd, the name Aang is a holy relic that deserves worship. They see a delusional weakling who thinks a name makes him a hero, and they can't wait to watch him fail the trial. Silver-haired girl walks away with a sneer. She dismisses the entire confrontation as nothing more than a childish tantrum. As her back turns, the crowd's whispers grow frantic, identifying her as the infamous Situ. She isn't just another candidate, she's the cold-blooded demon from the noble Situ family of the Helluos region. Her reputation for ruthlessness precedes every step she takes. Aang watches her retreating figure, his golden eye narrowing in sharp focus. That name feels heavy and dangerous. It sounds like a memory buried deep under years of blood and grit. Large muscular candidate looks at Ong. He wonders how anyone in this sector could be ignorant of a high-born noble like Sitalu. To the elites here, her family name is a terrifying warning sign, but to Ong, it's just another piece of a forgotten puzzle. He offers a brief, sincere thanks to the giant for the sudden assist. There is no ego in his voice, only the flat pragmatism of a survivor. They stand in the quiet wreckage of the moment, the massive social gap between them momentarily bridged by the shared chaos of the trial. Pink-haired girl waves her hands frantically. Suejo Yuhui practically vibrates with excitement as she tells the duo to ignore her presence and continue their intimacy. She isn't here for the hierarchy or the power struggle, she's only here for the material. In her distorted mind, the tense standoff between Ong and the giant was actually a scene of blossoming, flower-filled bromance. She clutches her camera with shimmering stars in her eyes, completely lost in a bizarre fantasy world. The big guy just stares at her in dead silence, mourning her wasted potential. It's a massive pity that such a talented recruit is a total, unfiltered dimwit. Ong stands confidently among the recruits. He cracks his knuckles with a smirk, convinced his elite soul can carry this pathetic shell. The man truly believes he's still the strongest soldier alive regardless of his new physical limits. Suddenly, the starter pistol cracks the air, signaling the beginning of the first evaluation. This long-distance run is a brutal test of pure perseverance. Ong lunges forward with a look of intense focus, determined to outpace every other trainee. He pushes his legs until they scream, desperate to maintain his dignity. Ong collapses face down on the track. The finish line becomes a scene of absolute public shame as he hits the dirt, gasping for air. He technically broke a record, but it's the record for the most pathetic performance in Academy history. This body is an absolute dumpster fire, proving to be even weaker than he initially feared. The instructor barks out the results for the entire crowd to hear, shouting that Ong is in dead last. Things only get worse during the arm strength test. A sickening pop echoes as Ong twists his wrist, rendering his limb completely useless before the leg test even begins. Lightning strikes behind a shocked Ong. The final scores arrive, and the verdict is a total, soul-crushing humiliation for the former legend. Ong is officially the top-ranked loser, technically coming in first place only if you count from the back of the pack. He looks like his soul has left his body while the crowd stares in judgmental silence. Even the photographer girl sighs, calling the skinny recruit a total waste of a good photo. An officer suggests cutting the boy immediately to clean up the ranks. However, Commander Yaotang intervenes with a sharp, commanding presence. He declares that even a monkey has the right to face the second assessment. The MC stares at the floor with a dark grin. The second test is announced, and it is all about synchronization frequency with the high-tech synthetic armor. This is the exact lifeline the boy needs. 60 years ago, he was an absolute legend who maintained a 96% sync rate. His current physique is a pathetic disaster, but synchronization is not a test of muscle. It is a test of pure, unrelenting willpower. Golden flames suddenly ignite in his eyes as he stands tall among the crowd. A thick, ghostly steam pours off his shoulders. He is finally ready to show them something real. The recruits enter a massive, sterile testing lab. High-tech machinery hums with power as the first group prepares for their synchronization. One recruit tests the weight, surprised at how light the metal feels on his frame. The digital screens flash a 39% frequency for the first attempt. It is a respectable number for a standard soldier, but the commanders are not impressed. The officers whisper about the true gap between commoners and martial families. They know the real monsters haven't even stepped up to the rigs yet. A girl with flowing silver hair steps into the center. Her gaze is freezing, looking at the other recruits like they are mere pebbles. The MC watches her from the back, recognizing that look of natural superiority. He thinks to himself that some people are just born to shine while others rot. She ignores the blushing boys around her entirely. On her chest, a bright green core begins to pulse with intense mana. She flips her long hair back and lets out a sharp, dismissive scoff. The social ladder is clear, and she sits at the very top. Footsteps climb up the metal stairs. She walks away under the harsh spotlight, leaving a trail of stunned, envious silence behind her. Everyone knows she is the strongest newbie this year. To the regular recruits, she represents a peak of nobility they can never hope to reach. They are merely the background characters in her world, meant to fill the seats. C watches the heavy mechanical doors groan shut as the atmosphere shifts. He takes a deep, shaky breath to steady his racing heart before the real, bloody trial begins. C wipes sweat from his forehead. He realizes that standing out too much might bring the wrong kind of dangerous attention, so toning down his output seems like the only way to survive the social ladder. He keeps his golden eyes low, wondering if a quiet life is even an option anymore. Suddenly, a heavy hand clamps onto his shoulder. A taller recruit grins with genuine excitement, claiming he can sense a raging vigor buried under C's slim physique. He is impressed that the boy isn't even trembling. C just looks away with a blank face, muttering that he is simply used to the crushing pressure of the bottom. A recruit screams in pure agony. The assessment quickly turns into a brutal torture chamber for the desperate first-timers as synthesization armor forces a violent gush of mana through their veins. Up on the monitor, a 12% synchronization flickers, marking the bare minimum for a pass. Each recruit must bear the crushing force emitted from the demonic monster core. A girl with pink hair collapses, wailing that she gives up. The staff marks her as a forfeit without a hint of mercy. In this room, if you can't hit a 10% sync, you are discarded like useless trash. A man's muscular chest wires up. The air in the testing bay thickens as the next recruit stabilizes his heart rate. On the monitor, a 30% synchronization frequency flashes in bright, bold text, signaling a massive success. This is the level of Suejo Yuhui, a standout of this elite group. The instructors watch with sharp, calculating eyes, noting that this batch possesses far better innate qualities than any other C-ranked regions. Results that shock the room begin to surface, proving the raw talent of these new soldiers. The bar is set high, and the pressure becomes suffocating. Recruits stand in a wide hall. While the elites celebrate, the instructors shift their cold gaze toward the bottom of the barrel. Not everyone is born with the gift of high-tier mana. A group of arrogant candidates starts jeering, pointing at a lone figure with absolute social contempt. These bullies mock him as the fool who finished dead last in every stage of the last assessment. Arrogant recruits tell him he hasn't even met a real imp yet, let alone a true monster. Their laughter is sharp and cruel, echoing off the metal walls. In their eyes, he's just a piece of useless trash that hasn't been thrown out yet. A black-clad man approaches the machine. The mockery fades into a tense, expectant silence as he ignores the insults. He steps toward the massive device containing the various demonic monster cores categorized by their battle origin. These stones are split into 6 distinct types, each carrying a different level of lethal energy. Without a hint of hesitation or fear, the reject reaches out for the most volatile option available. This underdog chooses the red core, a move that seems completely suicidal for a low-ranked failure. The entire crowd holds its breath, waiting for the core to tear his body apart. Colorful icons explain the core types. While red represents raw strength and blue marks nimbleness, the hierarchy of power goes much deeper than simple physical stats. Purple stones grant supernatural abilities, but the black core is a near mythical rarity that controls time and space. Most recruits stick to the basics to avoid burning out. The reject, however, isn't looking for safety or a participation trophy. He stares down the red stone like it's his only lifeline in a world designed to crush him. Hand slots red core into armor. Grabbing the most volatile option available is a death wish for most, but synchronization is all about sheer, unyielding willpower. The machine clicks, locking the core against his chest as searing energy floods his entire nervous system like molten lead. Veins light up with a golden, demonic charge that tests the very limits of his physical resistance. Synthesization hits 100%, and the suit hums with newfound, lethal potential. This failure just finished his transformation into something terrifying. Red lights bathe the resting area. The heavy air of the facility shifts as the process concludes, drawing curious eyes from across the entire training deck. A girl with silver hair watches the monitors in total disbelief, her breath hitching as she recognizes the face on the screen. It is the same boy everyone dismissed as a total waste of space just hours ago. Her eyes widen because the data on the display doesn't lie. Something impossible is happening right under their noses. MC eyes glow behind the visor. The crowd gathers near the railing, sensing a shift in the atmosphere that they can't quite explain yet. An arrogant elite steps forward, mocking the spectacle and promising to show everyone what a real soldier looks like. Suddenly, the underdog's eyes snap open with a terrifying, golden light that silences the room. This isn't a mistake, it's a total stat check against the entire room's arrogance. The strongest soldier just arrived, and he's the one they all laughed at. Scientists stare at the glowing monitors. The synchronization frequency isn't just rising, it's exploding upward at an impossible rate. It hits 40% in a single heartbeat, leaving the lab technicians breathless and scrambling for answers. Hidden beneath the interface, a sharp, predatory smirk forms on the recruit's face. He remembers a time when his frequency reached a legendary 96%. Red energy surges through the connection cables like molten lava, vibrating with raw power. He isn't just testing the armor anymore. He's reclaiming a throne they tried to take away. Digital screens flash higher percentage numbers. The numbers on the terminal keep climbing without any sign of stopping for air. It hits 50, then 60, shattering every expectation these rookies held on to. The arrogant elite who was just mocking him stands frozen, cold sweat pouring down his terrified face. He starts stammering about malfunctions, convinced the machine must be broken because his ego can't handle the truth. Behind him, the other recruits begin to panic, whispering frantic accusations of cheating. They can't accept that the person they ridiculed is actually a monster in disguise. A golden eye fills the frame. This is the official return of the king, the strongest soldier who once commanded absolute reverence from every man on the front lines. He knows his true, unbridled aura should be enough to force every person in this room to collapse onto their knees in submission. His golden eye snaps open with a terrifying intensity, radiating a physical pressure so heavy the floor seems to groan. The air in the room turns cold, thick, and completely stagnant. As his spirit descends like a falling star into the armor, the social hierarchy is finally restored. They wanted a show, and now they are witnessing the birth of a legend. Red energy swirls around a falling figure. Ong feels his legendary strength vanish into a void of jagged crimson light as his consciousness starts to slip. His mind screams for control, but this underdeveloped physique is an absolute dumpster fire. The red core pulses with a violent, unstable rhythm, sending shocks through his nervous system that feel like molten lead. He reaches out with thin, trembling fingers, his vision blurring as his lungs seize up from the pressure. Every muscle in his frame is screaming in pure, unfiltered agony. This pathetic body simply cannot endure the sheer weight of a hero's soul. A hand taps on a digital tablet. The technical staff scrambles to explain the chaotic spikes of mana that just threatened to blow the entire testing rig apart. They desperately claim the armor was malfunctioning and the red core was defective from the moment it was slotted into the suit. Commander Ji Yaotang watches the flickering screen with a heavy, unreadable gaze as the lead scientist dismisses the anomaly. They insist the fluctuating data was just a series of random, broken numbers caused by a hardware glitch. The official frequency is adjusted down to a pathetic 10%. The legendary peak everyone thought they saw is officially written off as a ghost in the machine. Recruits laugh from the high balcony. A wave of condescending jeers washes over the testing bay as the elites celebrate Aang's public humiliation. They mock the idea of a bottom-tier loser ever matching a high-ranking commander's synchronization frequency. In their arrogant minds, the social hierarchy has finally been restored, and the trash is right back where he belongs. Ong lies sprawled on the concrete floor with swirly eyes, looking like he's just been through a heavy-duty meat grinder. The large muscular recruit rushes over, hovering over him with a frantic expression to see if he's still alive. Even with a passing mark, Ong is now the favorite joke of the entire academy. Silver-haired girl peeks over a ledge. Situ Lu lets out a dismissive huff, though her eyes betray a flicker of genuine panic. She actually thought, for a split second, that a low-tier nobody from this backwater region had managed to outshine her noble talent. Nearby, Ong stands in the wreckage of the testing bay, staring at his trembling hands with a look of pure confusion. He wonders why he let his old warrior pride drag him into a petty competition with these children. He was lucky to survive the mana surge, let alone pass the synchronization. In the background, Suejo Yuhui is still snapping photos with her camera, her eyes forming little hearts at the sheer romantic drama of the fallen hero. Ong sits alone on a cold bench. He clutches the metallic casing of his suit, staring at the faint red glow of the exhausted core embedded in his chest. It feels like a single sudden breath just drained every ounce of strength he had stored deep within his soul. This level of physical exhaustion is a first for the former legend, and it tastes like bitter defeat. He knows that a low-tier stone shouldn't have shattered under his spiritual pressure, yet it crumbled like brittle glass. Something is fundamentally broken with this new body's capacity to hold mana. His golden eyes narrow as he searches for a reason, but the cold, industrial hum of the testing facility offers no comfort. A thunderous shout of attention rings out. The recruits snap into rigid, trembling lines as Ji Yaotang marches into the hall, his presence radiating the lethal weight of a dozen battlefields. He congratulates the survivors for reaching the final, bloody gate of the exam, real combat practice. The atmosphere turns ice cold as the commander reveals they are about to face a live demonic monster for the very first time. He looks over the recruits with sharp, predatory eyes, wishing them a smooth and safe trial while knowing most will fail. Behind him, the holographic displays flash the jagged silhouettes of the beasts they'll be hunting. The training wheels are finally coming off, and for these rookies, the line between a passing grade and a gruesome death has just vanished. Recruits march toward a massive hallway. The commander's voice booms across the sterile facility, ordering every soul to move to the third assessment field in their assigned rows. These trainees scramble into rigid lines, their heavy boots thumping in a frantic, uneven rhythm against the cold industrial floor. For most of these kids, the reality of the situation is finally starting to sink in like a lead weight. They aren't just transitioning to another simple test. They are being funneled into a social filter designed to snap their spirits and discard the weak. Each desperate step echoes with the crushing weight of their uncertain future as they sprint toward the next brutal evaluation. A blond man stares at a monitor. He holds a jagged red crystal firmly in his gloved hand while his gaze remains locked onto the data streaming across a handheld tablet. Among the sea of mediocre statistics, one silhouette stands out, moving with a grounded, predatory confidence that doesn't belong to a bottom-tier recruit. It is Ong, the boy everyone just ridiculed, now appearing like a flickering ghost on the thermal sensors. The officer mutters to himself that this particular outlier has piqued his curiosity in a way no low-ranked commoner ever should. While the arrogant crowd sees a weakling, the man with the crystal sees a shadow that moves with the lethal precision of a veteran who has already died once. Ji Yaotang narrows his yellow eyes. The scarred commander stands tall and declares that the next phase is the official hunt outside the wall amidst the suffocating, dense fog. High above the massive fortress, a solitary black crow glides over the sprawling, walled-in city, looking down at the tiny, vulnerable figures of soldiers waiting below. This is the exact moment where the sanitized training ends and the bloody reality of the demon tide begins for real. A thunderous command to open the gates shakes the very foundations of the courtyard, vibrating through the boots of every terrified recruit. As the massive steel barriers slowly groan and slide apart, they are met with a chilling, metallic wind from the wasteland beyond. The time for games is over, and the era of raw survival has officially arrived. Recruits walk through massive steel gates. Sunlight from the wasteland hits the group like a physical weight, blinding those who have never stepped beyond the safety of the city walls. One rookie whispers about this being his first time out, his voice shaking with a mix of awe and terror. The veteran guards don't care about his sentiment. An instructor barks at the group to shut their mouths and focus on their armor synchronization. This is the edge of civilization, and noise is just an invitation for a quick death. On stares at the red core. He feels a strange, hollow sensation in his chest, wondering why his legendary strength dipped so sharply during the synchronization test. It felt like something deep within his soul actively rejected the demonic energy. He descends the metal stairs into the testing facility, his boots clicking rhythmically against the cold floor. This body is a puzzle he hasn't solved yet. If transmigration comes with these kinds of physical repercussions, he is in much more danger than he initially realized. Golden eyes narrow in the dark. The atmosphere shifts instantly as Ong enters the combat zone, his survival instinct screaming that he is no longer the hunter. He moves into a pitch-black corridor where red sensor lines pulse across the ground like a digital heartbeat. The silence here is heavy and unnatural, smelling of stale air and old blood. He can feel the static of the monster cores nearby, vibrating through the soles of his shoes. This isn't just a simple training exercise, it's a meat grinder designed to weed out the weak. Monstrous wolves emerge from shadows. Their white eyes glow with a feral hunger that no simulation could ever hope to replicate. Suddenly, the pack lunges forward, their silhouettes blurring into streaks of lethal speed across the radar-lit floor. Ong barely has time to react before a massive claw tears through the air toward his throat. The first true encounter since his rebirth has officially begun. He isn't the apex predator anymore, and these beasts are desperate to taste the blood of a fallen legend. Skulls litter a dark, torchlit cave. A suffocating vision of the abyss grips the room as a monstrous silhouette emerges from the shadows. This isn't a low-level grunt, it's a demonic predator with a rank that defies common logic. Situ Lu's face goes pale, her noble pride crumbling under the weight of an entity far higher tiered than her own soul. She stammers that this is impossible, her body locking up as the sheer malice of the beast vibrates through the floor. It is a primal fear that leaves the elite recruits gasping for air. Aang's golden eyes glow with intensity. While the others are paralyzed by the mental assault, Aang's inner self begins to resonate deeply with the surrounding world. It's like a dormant engine finally catching a spark, aligning his mana with the flow of reality. He blinks, looking at the stunned silver-haired girl and asks if she's actually going to move. Situ Lu can only stare at him in disbelief, unable to process how this recruit remains unfazed. Ong offers a casual, "my bad," masking the fact that he just stared into the void and didn't blink. Recruits march through a massive industrial gate. The instructor's barked orders break the tension, signaling the start of the team-based trials. Sinuo and Yuhui are shoved toward the back, officially paired with Ong to form a squad of social outcasts. On the official scrolls, this group looks like a total failure waiting to happen. They follow the line of soldiers toward the training grounds, their heavy boots thumping against the dry earth. The massive doors groan open, revealing a jagged wasteland where the weak are destined to be erased. Pink-haired Yuhui leans close to Ong. She vibrates with excitement, her camera forgotten as she corners the boy with a playful, wide-eyed grin. She whispers if his little performance back there was just a secret strategy to ensure they stayed together as a team. Ong frantically tries to explain himself, but his legendary warrior instincts are useless against her bubbly interrogation. She sees a budding friendship where he sees a tactical nightmare. The social gap doesn't matter to her, she's just happy to have a front-row seat to the chaos he's about to cause. A silver-haired girl walks away. Situ Lu leaves the scene without a backward glance, her presence lingering like a cold draft. The giant recruit steps up to Ong, offering a firm hand and a supportive, "let's do our best." He doesn't see a loser, he sees a teammate worth his time. Meanwhile, Suejo Yuhui is vibrating with joy, snapping photos and declaring their grouping a total success. It's a bizarre alliance formed in the shadow of the upcoming trial. Ong just rolls with it, his mind already shifting to the next lethal hurdle. A massive black stone tower looms. This monument isn't just for show, it's crafted from a special material designed to peel back the deadly fog. The instructors announce the third assessment will be a group exercise of 4 members each. Their mission is simple and suicidal: hunt beyond the protective walls and survive the mist. Soldiers begin distributing essential gear to each squad, the tension in the air turning thick and metallic. Every recruit knows the safety of the city ends at that gate. Gloved hands hold a glowing canister. This is the fog dispersal armor, a portable version of the monument's power. It creates a small bubble of safety, but the light it provides is a beacon for every hungry thing in the dark. The instructors point toward a distant, lighted area that serves as their final extraction point. Along the way, they must slaughter unfinned demonic monsters to prove their worth. Individual skill is important, but their final grade depends on their ability to act as a single, lethal unit. Shadows shift within a gray haze. This fog is the last behemoth humanity hasn't conquered, a shroud that hides ancient, predatory nightmares. Ong and his mismatched crew charge into the gloom, their hearts hammering against their ribs. Glowing red eyes flicker in the distance, marking the position of monsters that haven't tasted human blood in years. This test requires more than just high stats, it demands a heart of iron that won't crack when the screaming starts. Suddenly, the mist parts, and as they gain vision, the true scale of the ambush is revealed. Recruits stand atop a massive corpse. This wasn't just a basic exercise, it was a brutal massacre meant to forge the title of a soldier through sheer blood. As the dust settles, a booming announcement declares that the assessment has officially ended for the first wave. The survivors catch their breath in the jagged dirt while the next group is ordered to prepare for the meat grinder. High above the training grounds, the observers acknowledge a surprising trend. It seems this batch actually contains quite a few talented newbies who might actually survive the demon tide. High heels stand on a ledge. Second Commander Dada Jiao of the Helios region looks down with a sharp, aristocratic gaze. She is primarily interested in the performance of Situlu, expecting the girl to uphold her family's lethal reputation. Beside her, First Commander Chiao watches the field with a more analytical focus. He knows that descendants of martial families are fostered specifically to become renowned legends. To these officers, the social hierarchy is as rigid as steel, and only those with the elite bloodlines are expected to reach the peak of this generation. Ong stands calmly among the crowd. Xiao crosses his arms, his internal alarm bells screaming as he spots a massive anomaly on the scanners. There is another recruit whose presence is starting to warp the gravity of the room. Ong looks up with a sharp, confident smirk, his golden eyes burning with an ancient, terrifying intensity. This isn't the face of a low-ranked loser. It's the return of a king who has been dead for 60 years. The commander realizes with absolute shock that there was nothing wrong with the high-output red core. He can only stare in silence, wondering what kind of monster he just accidentally unleashed into the ranks. The boy who was supposed to be trash is now the most dangerous man in the room. A red-haired girl leans into view. Jiao asks Commander Ji Yaotang what is on his mind while he turns a bright shade of red. This is the playful side of the military hierarchy we rarely see during the trials. She teases him with the nickname Tang Tang, sending the stone-faced leader into a sputtering, blushing rage. He snaps back, demanding she stop using that embarrassing name in front of the troops. It is a brief moment of grounded contrast before the weight of the coming war settles back onto their shoulders. Even the most hardened commanders have a soft spot that can be exploited by the right person. Ji Yaotang stares at the horizon. His focus shifts back to the grim reality of the upcoming warrior evaluation in the forest. The staff confirms that the field has been cleared of any high-level threats to ensure the recruits survive their first day. They have spent days scouring the Helios region to make sure only unfinned demonic monsters are roaming the trial grounds. To these officers, a single finned demon is a death sentence for any untrained trainee. They believe they have created a perfectly controlled environment, unaware that the rules of safety are about to be shattered by the boy they just dismissed as trash. A blue-haired officer smirks with purple eyes. He notes that if a one-finned monster actually showed up, the instructors would have to sacrifice their lives just to protect the new blood. It is a chilling reminder of the massive power gap between average humans and the demonic tide. They walk along the stone path together, discussing the heavy, silent burden of guardianship. Their mission is to preserve the future of humanity at any cost. They see themselves as the ultimate shield for these children, yet they have no idea that the strongest spear in history is currently standing in their safe lineup. Red demonic hands claw through the dark. The screen flashes with the weight of a coming evolution as the title card drops like a guillotine. Back at the arena, the speakers crackle to life, announcing that the current group's assessment is officially over. The dust settles on the field as the next batch of terrified recruits is ordered to step forward into the light. The instructors bark for the next unit to get ready for their trial by fire. Ong tightens his grip and narrows his eyes, knowing that his pathetic body is about to face its first real test of survival in this era. Recruits stand ready for the trial. The instructors toss a heavy sensor toward the line, testing their raw reflexes before the real sprint begins. Aang's hand snaps out, catching the metal device with a precision that surprises even himself. He stares at the cold steel, realizing his instincts are still razor-sharp even if his muscles are lagging behind. This isn't just a race, it's a showcase of who belongs at the top of the food chain. Silver hair blurs past the crowd. Situ Lu doesn't wait for a signal, launching herself forward like a coiled spring. She taunts the others to keep up, her voice dripping with the effortless confidence of a true noble. One of the male recruits grits his teeth in a visible rage, cursing her constant need for the spotlight. He knows that in this world, being second place is just another way of saying you're irrelevant. The group surges forward, desperate to catch the shadow of a girl who was born to lead. Boots hammer against the dry earth. Situ Lu moves with a fluid grace that makes the other candidates look like they're running through waist-deep mud. Her movements are a masterclass in efficiency, every stride eating up the distance with terrifying ease. Dust clouds explode behind her heels as she pushes the pace. She leaps through the air, her silhouette cutting a sharp line against the pale sky. To the watching crowd, she isn't just a student, she's a predator in a room full of prey. The gap between the martial families and the commoners has never looked wider. A heavy core slams into place. Situ Lu finishes the run by driving her sensor into the pedestal with enough force to crack the surrounding stone. Suejo Yuhui watches from the sidelines, her eyes wide as she analyzes the sheer technical perfection of the move. She notes that even though the girl's core is still recovering, her raw physique is already on par with high-tier agility builds. This is the terrifying reality of a martial arts lineage. The sheer power gap leaves the rest of the unit standing in a stunned, suffocating silence. They don't just train, they are engineered for total battlefield dominance. Red demons swarm the battlefield. On barks a sharp command to Lan Sinuo, his voice cutting through the roar of the monsters. The boy responds instantly, shouting that he is on it as he launches into the air like a guided missile. A golden aura erupts around Lan Sinuo, turning his body into a lethal, spinning drill that shreds the atmosphere. From a distance, the scene is a blur of dust and high-speed silhouettes carving through the red tide. They are not just fighting for survival, they are executing a tactical purge. The coordination between the two is a gritty reminder that talent alone cannot replace the instinct for blood. Golden energy shatters a demon's skull. Aang steps into the pocket, his fist connecting with a beast's chest with the weight of a falling mountain. He holds a concentrated orb of mana in his palm, his golden eyes reflecting the absolute terror of the creatures lunging at him. A massive demon is slammed face first into the concrete, the impact cratering the floor and sending shards of stone flying. Aang watches Lan Sinuo's movements with a critical eye, impressed by how the boy utilizes every ounce of his armor strength. This is a total stat check delivered with the technical perfection of a seasoned veteran. The social gap between these elites and the monsters is widening with every bone-snapping strike. Daggers spin in a blur. Aang twirls his blade with a dark, predatory intent, ordering the team to systematically dismantle every last monster in the vicinity. Suejo Yuhui gives a cheerful, almost playful confirmation while Situ Lu maintains her mask of icy indifference. Their boots drum against the dirt in a rhythmic, high-speed charge that signals the end for the remaining demons. Situ Lu leaps through the air, her silver hair trailing behind her as she readies a killing blow with her dagger. The trio functions like a well-oiled machine of destruction, proving that even a bottom-tier recruit can lead a squad of monsters. They leave no room for error, only a trail of cooling corpses and the silence of total victory. Aang's sharp golden eyes narrow in focus. He isn't just watching a fight, he's calculating every opening for the perfect execution. Beside him, Situ Lu becomes a silver hurricane of blades and mana. She carves through a massive red-skinned demon, her speed leaving jagged trails of white light across the battlefield. Delivery, she screams, launching herself forward with a kick that sends a monster spiraling into the gray sky. A heavy, bone-crunching impact follows. The air itself seems to shatter as another demon is pulverized against the dirt. She isn't just moving, she's dancing through a slaughterhouse. This level of violence is a wake-up call to every arrogant recruit watching. Thick dust clouds settle over the crater. Up on the observation deck, the instructors lean over the railing in total disbelief at the carnage. One researcher adjusts his glasses, muttering about how these two are actually cooperating like seasoned veterans. He focuses specifically on Situ Lu, analyzing the pulse of her blue agility core. To his trained eye, her body is moving in a perfect, lethal rhythm that defies the standard logic of a recruit. The social gap between these elites and the commoners has never looked wider than in this moment of raw power. He gets a bit too close to the screen, earning a sharp, territorial roar from Ji Yaotang. The scarred commander demands the man keep his eyes off the girl and focus on the data. Situ Lu's silver eyes flare with cold light. She doesn't give the demons a second to breathe or regroup after that initial assault. In one fluid motion, she leaps high above the remaining cluster of beasts, her white hair flowing like a banner of war. Her daggers glow with a sickeningly bright green aura as she begins her final descent. She stabs downward, burying her steel into a demon's skull with a sickening, wet crunch. A massive explosion of yellow energy erupts from the point of impact, vaporizing everything in a 10-foot radius. The beast lets out one final, distorted roar before being completely erased from existence. The area falls into a heavy, expectant silence as the last of the mana dissipates into the wind. The strongest warrior has finally found a partner who can actually keep up with his pace. Silver-haired girl slides across the dirt. Situ Lu proves she isn't just a noble name by becoming a walking hurricane of mana. She stares down the remaining threats with a cold, detached gaze that promises a swift end. With a single, sharp command to explode, she detonates her stored energy into a green shockwave. The monsters vanish into a spray of essence, leaving only scorched earth behind her. She makes the slaughter look like a high-end fashion show. GoldenEye flashes in the shadows. The digital display flickers to round 3, pitting the legendary soul of Aang against the next demonic wave. He doesn't waste energy on flashy displays or noble monologues. Instead, he locks onto the red beast with a predatory focus that would make a veteran soldier sweat. His mind calculates the geometry of the kill, identifying the neck and chest as the primary vital points. This isn't a brawl, it's a surgical removal of a biological threat. Black blade tears through red flesh. Aang moves like a shadow in a wind tunnel, reappearing behind the beast instantly. The demon's massive frame is a training dummy for his ancient techniques. One strike, bone severs, sinew shreds. A single, horizontal line of light marks the kill. The beast falls in jagged pieces, a victim of skill that shouldn't exist in this timeline. He isn't just fighting, he is reclaiming his status as the absolute peak of the battlefield. Dust settles around a crouching figure. Ong feels his lungs burning and his muscles trembling as the internal feedback loops begin to redline. He acknowledges the crushing reality that this weak shell has a hard limit on its raw explosiveness. It is a pathetic limitation for a man who used to shatter mountains. Instead of retreating, he realizes the beast just got stat checked by a ghost. His eyes glow a deep, threatening red as he dives back into the fray. This recruit is finally done playing soldier. Blue energy streaks trail Aang's movement. He pushes his body to the limit, feeling the ghost of his past life clawing at his current shell. Inside his mind, a demonic evolution takes root, threatening to consume the boy he used to be. Red hands of mana reach out from the abyss, marking the moment his soul begins to warp under the pressure. He isn't just a recruit anymore, he's a catalyst for something dangerous. A red demon roars in fury. The beast lunges with a bone-chilling scream, but Aang is already moving. He blurs through the air, narrowly dodging a massive claw that would have turned a normal human into red mist. Even with his legendary instincts, he grits his teeth and admits he didn't respond quite fast enough. This pathetic, underdeveloped physique is a cage that keeps him from reaching his peak. He flips over the monster's back, searching for a single opening. Impact sparks fly from the monster. Aang delivers a heavy kick to the demon's flank, but the blow lacks the mountain-shattering weight he remembers. He curses his poor body coordination, feeling the lag between his mind's command and his muscles' execution. The monster's jagged teeth snap inches from his throat as the struggle turns into a desperate grind. He reaches for his weapon, calling for a retrieval as the blade slides back into his grip. This isn't a clean kill, it's a battle for air. A white light severs the beast. Aang slams his dagger home, a blinding streak of energy carving through the demon's core. The beast falls in a heap of cooling flesh, its threat silenced by the technical perfection of a master. He lands firmly on the dirt, his breathing heavy as the dust finally settles. In the background, Situlu and the others stand frozen, unable to comprehend the violence they just witnessed. The social gap hasn't just closed, it's been demolished. Pink-haired girl holds a camera. Suejo Yuhui snaps photos like she's witnessing a miracle, while Situlu wonders who this scrawny kid actually is. Up on the observation balcony, Jiao Tang narrows his eyes, his gaze heavy with suspicion. He mutters that the boy doesn't move like a rookie, he moves like a veteran who has spent decades on the front lines. The commanders are finally starting to see the shadow of the legend beneath the weak exterior. Aang stares at his trembling hands. The high of the kill fades, leaving him with a bitter realization about his physical limits. He acknowledges that this pathetic frame simply cannot handle even one of his true martial techniques. It's a frustrating hurdle for a former king, but he knows he has to adapt quickly or get buried in the dirt. He is a tiger trapped in a house cat's body, forced to play by new, weaker rules. A black boot crushes the sand. Aang locks his golden eyes on the next target, declaring that its time has finally run out. Suddenly, a jagged red spike erupts from the earth as his inner mana begins to flare with a violent rhythm. His vision sharpens, focusing on the flow of energy that the children around him can't even perceive. The air around him starts to vibrate with a lethal, concentrated pressure that signals a total stat check is incoming. Massive tree roots encircle the squad. The battlefield turns into a cage of twisted wood as Situlu screams about being trapped. Before the panic can settle, Aang launches a strike that shatters the silence. A demonic skull is pulverized under the weight of a raw, bone-snapping impact. Red blood sprays against the gray fog as he systematically dismantles the ambush with terrifying efficiency. He isn't just surviving the trial, he's teaching these monsters why they should fear the return of a legend. Red energy streaks across the sky. The horizon bleeding crimson signals a total tactical nightmare for the Helluos region. A high-ranking officer's yellow eyes go wide with absolute terror as he spots the anomaly through the haze. He realizes the impossible has happened. A one-finned demon has breached the perimeter. This isn't a training drill anymore. Retreat to the city, he screams. The social order of the academy vanishes instantly. Raw survival takes over. Figures blur down the steep slopes. Blue energy eruptions shake the very foundation of the fortress walls as the instructors engage. Dust clouds swallow the battlefield whole. Dada Jiao plunges into the chaos with a lethal, aristocratic focus. She knows the recruits are just raw meat for a monster of this rank. Every second counts now. One mistake means a gruesome death. The air is thick with the suffocating, metallic scent of pulverized stone and demonic mana. Aang stares into the dark haze. A guttural, distorted voice echoes through the suffocating silence of the ruins. The monster is actually talking. It smells something impossible on the boy. A human with a demonic scent. Aang's golden eyes flare with an ancient, predatory heat. He doesn't look afraid. He looks ready. What is it saying? A massive, bone-crunching strike connects. Blood sprays the earth in jagged arcs. The legend is finally awake. His soul is starting to outpace his pathetic frame. 3 recruits stare up in horror. Situlu and the others realize they aren't facing a standard grunt anymore. This is a one-finned demon. The atmosphere turns heavy as the beast radiates a level of malice that makes the previous kills look like a playground. Aang grits his teeth, his forehead slick with sweat as he feels the crushing weight of the demon's aura. It is the first time his legendary mind has had to process the raw, physical oppression felt by an average warrior. This body is locking up, paralyzed by a biological fear that his warrior pride can't simply ignore. A jagged claw pulses with red energy. The demon lunges with a speed that blurs the air, its fingers glowing like molten embers. A massive red flash consumes the frame, sending the trainees flying like ragdolls into the dirt. They are completely outclassed by the raw output of a finned entity. Dust and debris choke the air as the recruits scramble to maintain their footing against the shockwave. The social hierarchy of the battlefield has been reset, and right now, everyone is just prey. A monster's white skull snarls forward. One of the recruits screams in a desperate, wide-eyed panic as the beast's tail whips through the landscape. Suddenly, a cold bite echoes across the clearing as a massive, world-shaking impact craters the ground. A pillar of dark energy erupts, and just as quickly as it appeared, the demonic pressure vanishes into the mist. Situ Lu and Nong are left standing in the wreckage, gasping for air while staring at the empty forest floor. The monster didn't just leave, it retreated with a chilling level of intelligence that haunts the silence. Two figures look over a lush valley. They stand on the edge of a rocky cliff, looking down at the dense greenery where the trail went cold. The adrenaline is still humming in their veins, but the lethal threat has completely evaporated into the landscape. One of them mutters that the trail stopped right here. The trial isn't just about killing anymore, it's about figuring out why a high-level predator just spared their lives in the heart of the wasteland. Red-haired woman looks down at trees. Dada Jiao's eyes narrow as she questions how a Fin demon could appear in a zone Tang Tang spent days clearing. She knows the scarred commander is never careless, making this anomaly a terrifying breach of military protocol. Xiao, also known as Joel, doesn't wait for an answer as he launches himself into the valley below. The two officers land in a blur of motion, their presence radiating the lethal pressure of high-tier warriors. Dada Jiao scans the empty clearing, her voice rising in a panicked shout to find the missing recruits. The social order of the academy is falling apart as the realization of the danger finally sinks in. Blonde commander shouts with wide eyes. Ji Yaotang is a frantic mess, his face twisting as he demands they continue the pursuit immediately. He cannot accept that the monsters have slipped through his fingers while the lives of the rookies hang in the balance. Joel stands firm, his calm demeanor acting as a cold anchor against the commander's rising hysteria. He flatly states that the trail has ended, and the predators have vanished into the gray fog. Ji Yaotang drops to his knees, touching the cracked earth as if searching for a miracle in the dust. He knows that charging blindly into unexplored territory is a death sentence even for a man of his rank. Hand reaches out in a dark vision. A suffocating memory of a child crying out for his brother flashes across the screen, revealing the trauma driving Ji Yaotang's desperation. He slams his fist into the stone floor with a thunderous crack, shattering the ground beneath his weight. The legendary strength he usually uses to protect others is now just a tool for his own self-destruction. He bows his head in the dirt, his pride as a commander completely erased by the weight of his perceived failure. He whispers that it is all his fault for letting this happen. The elite guard of the fortress has been broken by the shadow of the demon tide. Red-haired woman comforts the kneeling commander. Dada Jiao leans over the broken Ji Yaotang, her voice softening as she calls him by that playful nickname. She tells him no one wanted this tragedy to strike those 4 recruits. A gloved hand rests on his shoulder, a silent anchor in his sea of guilt. Jiao promises to continue the search, but Tang Tang isn't listening to reason anymore. He is drowning in the realization that his leadership led them into a death trap. The air is thick with failure. Blue-haired officer watches Tang Tang stand up. Xiao notes it would be bad if all the commanders vanished, suggesting they send a search squad later. Ji Yaotang isn't interested in waiting for bureaucracy. The commander's yellow eye flashes with a sudden, lethal intensity that stops the officer mid-sentence. He is already pushing himself off the ground, his posture shifting from defeat to predatory focus. Before anyone can stop him, he sprints into the gray wasteland alone. He moves like a blur of desperate vengeance, his silhouette swallowed by the fog. 2 officers talk about the commander's past. Dada Jiao watches the horizon, her smile fading into a weary sigh. She reveals that Tang Tang's brother was snatched by demons years ago, leaving a hole in his soul that never healed. Every time he sees a recruit in danger, he relives that original trauma. Those kids weren't just soldiers, they were ghosts of the sibling he couldn't save. He blames himself for every life the abyss claims. It's a heavy burden that drives him to the edge. Jagged rocks frame a pitch-black cavern. Blinks through the darkness, his vision swimming as he realizes he's trapped in a massive underground nest. The damp walls echo with the rhythmic breathing of his teammates, still bound and unconscious beside him. He realizes with a jolt of adrenaline that they aren't dead yet, just stored like livestock for a later meal. This isn't the wasteland surface, it's the belly of the beast. His golden eyes narrow as he begins to analyze their prison. Survival starts now. Wakes up to a monster's face. His eyes snap open to a total nightmare as a distorted voice rasps, questioning how he managed to wake up so soon. A massive, jagged claw hovers inches from his throat, belonging to a Fin demon that should never be in a beginner training zone. The beast towers over him with a terrifying, calm intelligence, noting that his recovery speed is impressive. Aang's golden eyes flare with a mix of shock and lethal calculation. He is pinned against the rough bark of a nest, staring into the abyss of a high-tier threat while his physique still feels like lead. Ong is trapped in a pulsating nest. The surrounding cavern walls seem to breathe, covered in a sickening, organic membrane that swells with a rhythmic thump. Red light flickers from the demon's armor cores, casting long, jagged shadows across the recruit's trapped frame. This isn't just a simple prison, it's a larder, and the heavy swell of the walls suggests something massive is being fed nearby. A close-up reveals a veiny, pulsating surface that radiates an aura of pure malice. Somewhere in the dark, a voice trembles in realization that the situation has spiraled far beyond a survival exercise. Ong strikes at the demon's weakness. He refuses to wait for a formal invitation to die, surging through a cloud of jagged red energy that overrides his physical agony. A silhouette of pure speed cuts through the crimson haze, moving with a grounded precision that catches the Fin demon off guard. Ong lunges forward, his eyes locked onto a single, critical flaw in the beast's armored hide. A weakness, he mutters, his blade blurring toward a gap in the demon's defenses. This is a total skill check delivered by a ghost who has already mastered the art of the kill. The hunter has officially become the hunted. Ong dives toward the demon's joints. He screams that he'll tear the creature's damn limbs off as he pivots in midair. His blade slices through the atmosphere with a desperate, jagged energy that crackles against the demon's hide. This isn't a refined duel anymore. It's a gritty street fight for survival. Aang's crimson aura flares, matching the feral intensity of an opponent that should be way out of his league. He aims for the vulnerable gaps in the armor, knowing one clean hit could end this. Every strike is a calculated gamble against a beast that towers over his fragile frame. Blood streaks across Aang's defiant face. He spits out a lethal taunt, reminding the creature it's just a lowly one-fin demon. Even in this trash body, his ancient warrior pride remains absolutely untouchable. Then, the world spins. A thunderous impact slams him into the rocky terrain, the force nearly snapping his spine like a dry twig. He coughs up crimson, his golden eyes flickering as the sheer weight of a finned monster's strength finally hits home. This isn't a training dummy. It is a death sentence delivered with the weight of a mountain. Smoke rises from the impact crater. Ong slumps against the jagged rocks, gasping for air as his muscles begin to redline and fail. The demon stands tall, a twisted, predatory smirk forming behind its bone mask. It reveals a terrifying secret. It's a wood type. Thick green vines and mana begin to wrap around its severed wounds like living stitches. The beast mends its own mangled flesh in a matter of seconds. Aang's heart sinks as he realizes the rules of the hunt just changed. A healing factor on a Fin demon is a total nightmare for a low-tier recruit. The demon stares at the fallen boy. It mocks Aang for his desperate struggle, looming over him with the suffocating arrogance of a superior species. Suddenly, the monster launches a final, high-speed assault to finish the job. Jagged white light tears through the gray fog as the demon strikes with a flurry of lethal shards. Aang barely has time to brace himself before the entire area is engulfed in a blinding blur of mana. The trial just turned into a slaughterhouse, and the fallen legend is officially out of time. A blur of motion slams Aang backward. The demonic predator closes the gap instantly, its clawed hand clamping around his throat like a vice. Aang freezes as the beast's sheer physical pressure locks his joints in place. The monster tilts its head, its distorted voice rasping that it doesn't understand him. It dismisses his existence with a cold command to forget it all. A massive claw looms over his face, ready to crush his skull into the dirt. The legendary soul is trapped in a body that can't even twitch. Aang stares at the foggy ground. Silhouettes of Situ-Lu and Suejo Yuhui flicker in the distance as his consciousness begins to slip. He mutters a bitter laugh about reincarnating just to die in a nameless pit. Blood drips from his chin, staining the dry earth a dark, metallic crimson. He whispers an apology to his teammates, feeling the crushing weight of his failure. But then, a surge of raw, jagged spite boils over within his chest. He refuses to accept this end. You bastard. The monster opens its massive jaws. It mocks the weak human, declaring this kill is the key to its evolution. The beast lunges forward, teeth bared to swallow him whole. Suddenly, Aang's golden eyes flare with a terrifying, crimson intensity. You'll eat me, he growls, his voice vibrating with ancient, lethal power. A pillar of red energy erupts from his frame, shattering the ground into jagged shards. The hunter just became the prey. Aang stands tall in the center of the red storm. Red energy swirls around Aang. He can't believe he is forced to burn the last sliver of his legendary consciousness just to survive this encounter. The demonic wolf lets out a pathetic whimper as a terrifying presence descends upon the clearing. This isn't just a flicker of mana. It is the weight of 1,000 wars crushing the air out of the beast's lungs. Panic ripples through the monster's feral mind as it realizes the prey has vanished. On the remote scanners, the power level spikes into the impossible range. Observers scream about 5-finned or even 6-finned threats appearing in a low-level zone. The atmosphere turns into a suffocating shroud of crimson light. A massive energy pillar erupts. Aang becomes the center of a violent, vertical storm that pierces the very clouds above the wasteland. The ground beneath his boots disintegrates into jagged shards and fine dust. This isn't a mere recruit passing a test, this is a king reclaiming his throne with interest. The sheer output of mana warps the space around him, creating a vacuum of pure destruction. Every tree and stone in the vicinity is leveled by the radiating shockwave. The world itself seems to hold its breath in the face of this anomaly. It is an absolute peak of power that no one expected from a bottom-tier loser. Monsters disintegrate in the light. The alpha wolf has no time to scream as the red energy tears through its flesh like a hot wire through wax. Its eyes bulge in a final, agonizing realization of its own insignificance. A blinding white flash consumes the entire frame, erasing the battlefield from existence for a split second. When the light finally fades, only scorched earth and the smell of ozone remain. Ong stands in the center of the ruin, his silhouette flickering with the dying embers of his soul. The hunt is over. The legend is back. A red demon descends in light. The air turns heavy as a terrifying presence manifests, claiming to be the only 8-finned demon in existence. This is the Crimson-Finned King, a title that carries the weight of 1,000 slaughtered armies. He demands absolute submission, his voice echoing with a command that forces the very soul to buckle. As he floats downward, bathed in an eerie radiance, he orders everyone to speak his name. His golden eyes flare with a predatory light that makes the previous monsters look like harmless pets. This isn't just a high-level threat, it's the apex predator of the demonic hierarchy returned to claim his throne. Pale face with long white hair. The demon's face is a mask of cold, immortal beauty framed by jagged red horns. He stares down at the world with a detached arrogance that only comes from being an undisputed ruler of the abyss. Red hands claw at the periphery of his aura, symbolizing the countless lives consumed to fuel his ascension. This 8-finned king is a living disaster, a creature whose mere presence should be impossible in a low-level testing zone. The sheer mana density radiating from his frame begins to warp the surrounding reality. It's a chilling reminder of the gap between human ambition and demonic perfection. A sharp eye watches through dust. The scene shifts abruptly as the dust of the trial grounds begins to settle. Amidst the wreckage, a single, sharp eye narrows with lethal intent, cutting through the haze like a blade. The chaos of the assessment continues, but the atmosphere has fundamentally shifted since the king's shadow loomed over the field. On remains grounded, his instincts vibrating at the arrival of such a high-tier monster. He isn't paralyzed by the sudden spike in demonic pressure. He's calculating his next move. The line between a training exercise and a massacre has just been erased. Every breath now tastes like the coming storm. On kicks a green demon. A massive impact sends shockwaves through the dirt as On continues his brutal assault. He isn't holding back, moving with a speed that turns his frame into a blur of lethal intent. The green monster barely has time to register the threat before a follow-up strike shatters its guard. This isn't just a fight, it's a statement of raw dominance. These creatures are being systematically dismantled by a man who refuses to be limited by a weak body. Every movement is a calculated step toward total battlefield control. A bearded officer stands alone. He finishes his patrol, noting that the area only held 2 finned demons, which should have been a simple cleanup. His yellow eyes narrow as he realizes the recruits are nowhere to be found. This professional calm is his baseline, the mark of a veteran who has seen too many rookie mistakes. But even his experience can't prepare him for the anomaly currently brewing. He expects a routine report, unaware that the social order of the academy is about to be nuked from orbit. Red light erupts into the sky. The officer freezes, his face twisting in absolute shock as a pillar of crimson mana tears through the clouds. This isn't a training spark. It's a cataclysmic energy wave that shouldn't exist in a low-level trial. He stares toward the horizon, demanding to know what kind of monster could generate such a terrifying pulse. The sheer pressure of the wave vibrates through the ground, marking the exact spot where Ong is rewriting the rules of power. This is the moment the top brass realizes they aren't looking at a student, but a legend reborn. Dust settles around a massive crater. From the center of the impact, a terrifying presence rises, its claws clicking against the scorched stone as it assumes a humanoid form. This is the 8-finned king. He towers over a lesser demon that's currently groveling in the dirt, paralyzed by the sheer weight of a superior soul. Red energy pulses through the air, signaling a return that was never supposed to happen. The smaller beast can barely stutter out a title as the sovereign's mana crushes the air out of its lungs. The social hierarchy of the abyss has just been violently restored. The king gazes at the dark sky. He lets out a dry laugh, mocking the fact that the horizon remains just as bleak as the day he vanished. His hand reaches out, gripping the jagged jaw of his informant with a casual, bone-chilling pressure that signals instant death. The informant shakes, realizing his life is a coin toss in the hands of a legend. He demands to know if the 5 original demon lords still hold their thrones. The creature shrieks in terror, desperately confirming that those 5 kings have maintained their positions without change. These rulers have grown soft while the true nightmare was rotting in the dark. A predatory smile twists the king's face. He finds it absolutely hilarious that his former rivals are living in peace while he suffered in exile. His golden eye flares with a lethal, concentrated heat as his fangs catch the dim light of the wasteland. Suddenly, the atmosphere screams. Jagged red energy severs the silence, pulverizing the surrounding stone in a blinding flash of mana. The ground craters under his sheer spite. He hasn't forgotten the betrayal from 60 years ago. The debt is due. The legend is back to collect every drop of blood they owe him. Red Demon King looks down coldly. The Crimson-Finned King sneers at the pathetic shell he's currently piloting, having expected a vessel worthy of his name. Instead, he's trapped in a body that feels like lead. This is a total disappointment. Ancient eyes narrow, realizing his last sliver of consciousness is being wasted on a fight this ridiculous. His true return will have to wait for a complete awakening. Until then, he's just a tiger in a cage, waiting for the bars to rust. Lesser demon bows in absolute terror. The king's patience is reaching its limit as he stares at the shaking monster before him. He needs this strongest soldier to finally wake up and process the Finn's memories buried in his soul. The kneeling beast realizes these memories are the key to the ultimate evolution. In the Dark Clan, Finns are the only currency that matters. More Finns mean more power. Every new Finn is a step toward becoming a king of the wasteland. The air is thick with the weight of his legacy. Tall Red King walks through dust. He strides forward with a terrifying grace, reminding the world why his kind stands at the top. Most demons have to resort to cannibalistic slaughter, devouring their own brothers of the same level just to crawl up the ranks. But the king is different. This predator doesn't play by the standard rules of the abyss. He just needs to consume higher-level demons to steal their memories and skip the grind entirely. It's a total power-scaling nightmare that breaks every law of nature. The social gap has become a canyon. Stat-checked and slaughtered. The Crimson King towers over the wreckage. He watches the dust settle, whispering about the necessity of evolution. This isn't just a battlefield, it's his personal garden of growth. Below him, the surviving demons collapse in total terror. They scream for mercy. They pledge their very souls. King, they stammer, terrified by the suffocating, metallic weight of his presence. He doesn't even look at them. They are nothing but tools to be discarded. The social gap between them is infinite. One flick of his finger would erase their existence. A violent red light consumes the frame. The king's face is a mask of pure, immortal arrogance. He declares the groveling grunts completely unworthy of his presence. His golden eyes lock onto the broken, bleeding form of Ong. Suddenly, a glowing DNA strand flickers into life between them. It pulses with a rhythmic, sickening heat. This is the first step of a grand, terrifying design. He isn't here to finish the boy. He's here to upgrade him. The king prepares a gift that would kill a normal human instantly. It's a total, high-tier system breaker. The king lifts Ong by the collar. Blood streaks the boy's pale, unconscious face as he dangles like a ragdoll in the wind. The monster smirks, demanding the human warrior awaken toward the legendary 8th Finn. He doesn't want a weakling. He wants a peer he can eventually consume. The air hums with the sound of demonic mana being forced into a human shell. A blinding flash signals the start of the absorption. The pathetic, low-tier body is being rewritten. It is a terrifying, long-term investment. The legend is being forged in demonic fire. When he wakes up, the world won't recognize him. Ong sits in a dark crater. He mutters about awakening from his long slumber as red sparks dance through the air like dying embers. A blinding light erupts from his chest, signaling the core's total ignition. Inside his body, biological strands weave together with demonic mana in a violent, high-speed dance. This isn't just healing, it's a total structural rewrite. The pathetic recruit is being replaced by something ancient and terrifying. A winged demon floats over Ong. The crimson-finned king hovers in a fetal position, shrouded in a cocoon of jagged red energy. Ong screams as the sheer pressure of the king's soul fuses with his own fragile frame. Every nerve ending burns with the weight of this unholy pact. A distorted voice echoes through the dark void, declaring him the new king. The hierarchy of the wasteland just found its apex predator. He is no longer just a recruit, he is a vessel for a disaster. Bloodied Ong lies on the ground. He gasps for air, his mind reeling from the realization of the king's overwhelming power. Images of a woman waiting for him to return flash across his fading consciousness, fueling his will. He refuses to let the abyss claim him yet. He grips his own hand with bone-snapping force, vowing to get everyone out of this hell alive. The technical gap is gone. Only raw, stubborn survival remains in the wreckage. Ji Yaotang screams in fury. The commander's yellow eye glows with a manic, bloodshot intensity as he scans the fresh carnage. Ji Yaotang towers over the smoking wreckage, his face twisted in a mask of pure disbelief and exhaustion. He demands to know why Ong is the only one who survived the demonic slaughter. The silence of the ruins is deafening. The social order of the academy is shattered. A student has done the impossible, and the elite are finally terrified. Golden eyes snap open in darkness. Ong gasps for air, his hand flying to his forehead as cold sweat soaks through the thin hospital sheets. He mutters to himself that it was all just a nightmare, desperate to believe the slaughter was a lie. But as his vision clears, the crushing weight of those ancient memories tells a far more dangerous story. He is lying on a medical cot in the academy barracks, the ceiling fan humming a steady, grounding rhythm. He survived the encounter, but his legendary soul is still reeling from the physical cost of that power output. Situ Lu stands over the bed. Her voice cracks with relief as she shouts that Brother Ong is finally awake after the trial. Suejo Yuhui and the rest of the squad crowd the small infirmary space with faces full of genuine concern. Ong looks at them, his voice trailing off as he realizes his teammates aren't just corpses in a demon nest. Situ Lu doesn't give him a second to breathe, leaning in until her face is inches from his nose. Ong yells at her to get back, but she just demands to know why his hair has completely changed color. Ong sits up on the cot. He ignores the question about his new look, demanding to know if all three of them truly made it back safely. He recalls being taken to that one Fin Demon's cave before everything went dark. Before the rookies can explain their escape, a massive shadow looms behind the privacy curtain. The fabric is ripped aside with a thunderous crack that stops everyone's heart. Ji Yaotang stares down at the recruit with a bloodshot, predatory intensity that screams of military pressure. He demands a full explanation of what happened in that cave, looking for the truth behind the impossible. Ji Yaotang looms over medical beds. The air in the recovery ward turns ice cold as the captain stares down the 4 survivors. His presence alone is a physical weight, drowning out the hum of hospital machinery as he demands the truth about the cave. His yellow eye bores into the recruits like a spotlight, hunting for any sign of a lie. He isn't asking for a report, he's hunting for the anomaly that destroyed a Fin demon. To these rookies, he is no longer just a teacher, but a predator gauging their worth. Demonic faces swirl in a red void. As the interrogation deepens, the memory of that crimson evolution flashes behind Aang's eyes. A twisted, half-human reflection stares back from the darkness, reminding him of the ticking mana bomb buried in his soul. This isn't a secret he can share with the military brass without ending up on an autopsy table. He maintains a stony, detached mask, hiding the ancient predator that nearly consumed his frame. The social gap between recruit and captain remains wide, but the gap in hidden power is now infinite. Dada Jiao smirks at the blushing captain. The heavy atmosphere is suddenly nuked by a single, mocking nickname that shatters the commander's aura. The red-haired officer reveals that Tang Tang was the one who personally carried the rookies back to safety. The legendary, stone-faced Ji Yaotang turns bright red, screaming at her to never use that name in front of the students. Situ Lu and the others stare in stunned silence, watching their terrifying superior get publicly roasted by his colleague. The fearsome war hero is reduced to a flustered joke in seconds. Aang sits quietly in his recovery ward. Amidst the petty bickering, the former king remains an anchor of calm in the chaotic room. He watches the social power play with a veteran's focus, his mind already calculating the next phase of his training. The physical toll of the evolution is heavy, but surviving the wasteland has officially secured his place in the academy's hierarchy. He doesn't join the laughter. He simply waits for the military to leave so he can begin reclaiming his true strength. For recruits lie on ground. The recovery team counts their lucky stars that the high-tier predator vanished before they arrived. Situ Lu and the rest of the squad wake up with a total memory wipe, unable to explain how they escaped the cave alive. Aang eventually sits up in his hospital bed, gripping a small hand mirror with trembling fingers. His hair is different now, streaked with sharp highlights that signify his recent demonic evolution. He realizes reincarnation is a messy process that is physically rewriting his very DNA to accommodate his soul. Blurred silhouettes of combat flicker. Aang sifts through the jagged memories of the energy surge, deciding to keep his true nature hidden from the academy. Explaining that an ancient warrior has hijacked this weak frame would only lead to a life in a research lab. He plays the part of the lucky survivor, claiming he fell unconscious long before the final blow was struck. Ji Yaotang watches him from the shadows, his yellow eyes narrowing in a silent, predatory focus. The commander knows a rookie shouldn't have eyes that look like they've seen 1,000 wars. Crimson blood splatters the stone. The investigation unit finds a wall of gore in the cavern that shouldn't exist in a low-level trial zone. In the recovery room, a casual officer leans back in his chair, asking if the kid's name is really Aang. He notes that the name belongs to an incredible warrior whose legend still haunts the military. Even though Aang's physical foundation is pathetic, his test results show a terrifying, cold-blooded calm during combat. The social order of the fortress is beginning to crack as the elites realize they have an anomaly in their ranks. Aang smiles while answering questions. He insists he has never actually fought a demon, claiming he is just obsessed with the theory of combat. He explains that he spent his time analyzing every demonic weakness, playing the part of a studious rookie perfectly. Dada Jiao laughs, labeling him a theory type, and encourages Ji Yaotang to train such a splendid warrior. Aang hides his true nature behind a mask of curiosity, immediately asking how his formal test results look. He is expertly manipulating the perception of the elite officers while keeping his legendary past buried. Pink-haired Suejo Yuhui smiles. She cheers that they are still a team thanks to Ji Yaotang's intervention, viewing their survival as a twist of fate. However, the silver-haired Situ Lu cuts through the optimism with a cold dose of reality. She stares at Aang, noting that their squad is already miles behind the competition. Ji Yaotang confirms the grim news, explaining that while the boy was out, the other recruits were stacking kills. Because Aang has been unconscious for 3 days, their team currently sits at a pathetic 0 points. The social hierarchy of the academy is already leaving them in the dust, and the elites are looking down on them as dead weight. Aang adjusts his white gloves. He repeats the news in total disbelief, realizing he's been sidelined for 72 hours while the world moved on. The camera pans over the massive academy building as the weight of his situation finally sinks in. Outside, the other students are likely laughing at the squad that couldn't even stay awake for the first week. Situ Lu watches him from the shadows, her long silver hair flowing as she measures his reaction. Aang doesn't panic, Instead, he stands up and tightens his gear with a sharp, lethal smirk. The 0-point start doesn't scare a former king. It just means he has more people to humiliate on his way to the top. Crowds watch new warriors pass by. Whispers ripple through the plaza as civilians spot Captain Ji Yaotang leading the fresh recruits toward the inner sanctum. People can't believe how young these fighters look, wondering if they are truly ready for the front lines after only 3 days. Ji Yaotang stops his stride and offers a rare word of congratulations, formally welcoming them into the ranks of humanity's protectors. He specifically notes that returning alive from a clash with a one-fin demon is a feat worthy of genuine respect. For the recruits, the social ladder is finally shifting. They aren't just students anymore. They are the elite hope of a region under siege. Recruits stand tall under a blue sky. Ji Yaotang clarifies that these 4 have been delegated directly under his personal care moving forward. He manages 9 different squads, and he makes it clear that he expects this specific group to claw their way to the top of his roster. Ong listens with a look of bored indifference, his golden eyes scanning the area for real threats rather than praise. Beside him, a teammate leans in and asks if he's heard about the small team point ranking system yet. Situ Lu scoffs at the question, calling Ong a clueless newbie who doesn't understand the physical pressure they are under. She drops the cold, hard reality. They are currently the absolute lowest ranking team in the academy. A tall digital leaderboard displays rankings. Ji Yaotang explains the brutal hierarchy system designed to spark ruthless competition between the various squads. Points are the only currency that matters in this fortress, earned exclusively through blood, sweat, and successful demon hunts. The 3 captains oversee the flow of power, rewarding the top 2 teams with prestige and advanced resources. However, the last-place squad faces a public humiliation that breaks most warriors' spirits before they even reach the battlefield. They are stripped of their rank and demoted to the cleaning crew. Ong watches the disgraced soldiers scrubbing the floors in the dirt, realizing this academy is just another battlefield where the weak are systematically crushed. Men scrub the stone floor. The penalty for being last isn't just shame, it's a month of manual labor until the next batch of failures arrives. This academy uses a brutal social filter to ensure only the strongest climb. The commander explains that constant competition is the only way to keep up with the evolving demon threat. He officially announces Situ Lu as the team leader because she scored the highest points in the preliminary test. The hierarchy is set by the numbers on a screen, leaving no room for debate. Recruits stand in the courtyard. The commander asks if there are any objections to his choice. One recruit immediately sucks up, praising Situ Lu for being meticulous. Suejo Yuhui chimes in with a smile, calling her leader strong. Meanwhile, Aang's blood boils as he stares at the ground in a silent rage. He was the strongest warrior humanity ever knew, a king whose name made the abyss tremble. Now, he's being stat-checked by a girl who hasn't seen a real war. This pathetic body is holding his reputation hostage while the elites gloat. Black boots step on tile. Situ Lu accepts the role with a cold, predatory confidence, declaring they will definitely finish the mission. She looks down at the squad with a sharp gaze, wondering who else the instructors could possibly have chosen. To her, this isn't just a promotion, it's a confirmation of her natural superiority over the trash in her unit. The sun hangs high over the fortress, casting long shadows across the stone plaza. There is no time for celebration in a world that never stops bleeding. A commander walks away. He tells the rookies to check the rankings of the other squads while they still have the chance. He warns them that the real challenge begins once they sink their nano-wing battlesuits for actual combat. Survival depends on how well they adapt to the gear and the pressure of the wasteland. With a sharp bark, he dismisses the group, his silhouette fading into the industrial backdrop. The recruits shout their compliance in unison, their voices echoing through the cold alleyways. The games are over. The hunt is about to begin. The team walks through the city. Situ Lu urges the squad toward the mission board, noting they are already 3 days behind the leading teams. She suddenly stops the group in their tracks, her expression hardening as she declares something more important must happen first. Her mind is actually a storm of anxiety, fearing her reputation as a perfect leader is about to crumble over a rookie mistake. It's a total fake-out. She just wants to snap the team's first official photo. Suejo Yuhui happily produces a camera, her pink hair bobbing as she prepares for the shot. Aum watches his eccentric teammates, feeling a rare moment of peace as he admits this group isn't bad. The camera flashes, capturing a rare smile before the world goes back to hell. Officers stand on a high balcony. Dada Jiao and Ji Yaotang overlook the wasteland, dissecting the violent reports coming from the front lines. The demons found near the cave didn't just die, they were completely obliterated from the inside out. Splatters of unknown demonic blood cover the stone, suggesting a power level that shouldn't exist among the recruits. Xiao clicks a lighter, his purple gaze fixing on the group below as he questions the official narrative. He flatly asks if these 4 kids are truly capable of such a tactical massacre. He is specifically suspicious of Ong, noting that his own supernatural senses are picking up a terrifying scent. To the world, Ong is a bottom-tier loser, but Xiao sees the shadow of a predator. The secret of the reincarnated king is finally starting to leak. Blue-haired officer smokes a cigarette. Xiao isn't letting his suspicion drop, his gaze fixed on the anomaly that is on Dada Jiao tries to lighten the mood, wrapping her arms around around a brooding Tang Tang in a playful hug. She tells him he's overthinking the situation as long as the kids are safe. Tang Tang isn't laughing, his white eyes staring into the distance with a grim intensity. They eventually agree on a plan. Keep a close watch on the boy and report any movement that doesn't fit a rookie. Ong stares at the mission board. He spots a cluster of A-rank assignments and pauses to calculate his next move. Suejo Yuhui and Situ Lu quickly crowd around him, their voices thick with genuine concern. They explain that A-rank missions are the absolute peak of difficulty for recruits like them. While B-rank and C-rank tasks are safe, these high-tier hunts offer 10 points because they usually end in blood. The social gap between a standard soldier and an A-rank survivor is a canyon most never cross. Black-gloved hand grabs 3 papers. Situ Lu warns that these missions lead to severe casualties, but the words bounce off Aang's back. He doesn't just pick one. He tears all 3 A-rank assignments off the board in one go. The surrounding air goes silent as the other recruits struggle to process the sheer arrogance of the move. He turns back with a bored expression, declaring they should just take them all. This isn't a suicide mission to him. It's a total stat check. The former king is done playing around in the dirt. A sharp blade slices through a heavy metal surface. Ong and his squad are officially diving into the meat of those A-rank missions, and they aren't wasting a single heartbeat. The world of demon evolution is about to get a lot more intense as they leave the safety of the walls behind. Honestly, seeing them move this fast proves they're finally done playing student. 4 figures sprint through a narrow rocky gorge. The team moves with a synchronized desperation, but the real momentum shifts when Situ Lu slams her palm against her chest core. That red gem surges with raw, crackling energy, signaling that the high-tech nano-wing suit is finally going online. It's a massive power spike that turns a group of rookies into a genuine threat. Ong glances back with his golden eyes wide. He's witnessing the nano-wing tech in action for the first time, and it's nothing like the primitive gear from his previous life 60 years ago. The squad instantly accelerates into a high-speed blur, tearing through the canyon floor like a pack of starving wolves. This kind of speed shouldn't be possible for a bottom-ranked team, which raises the question, just how much has humanity evolved while Ong was gone? A hand snatches a humming blade hilt mid-air. Ong feels the spark of modern evolution as he grips his weapon, noticing how the energy flow integrates perfectly with his movements. The group huddles together in the dust, blades drawn and spirits high as they prepare for the slaughter. They aren't just rookies anymore, they're a lethal unit waiting for the first monster to blink. The big question now is whether this tech is enough to survive the nightmare waiting in the shadows. 2 monsters wait inside a dusty crater. Ong spots the targets, 2 no-fin demons, and decides they're taking them both out in one clean sweep. It's a gutsy move for a group of rookies, but Situ Lu is already airborne, swinging her blade with enough force to crack the ground. The demons are caught off guard, but their instincts kick in fast as they crouch for a counter-lunge. You have to wonder if the squad's speed is actually going to be enough to stay ahead of those claws. Horrifying jagged teeth gnash in the dark. Situ Lu isn't interested in a fair fight. She reminds the team they have 3 more A-rank missions to crush and 0 time to waste. Lan Sinuo steps up, using a massive technique to kick up a wall of debris and kill the monster's line of sight. It's a textbook tactical setup that leaves the beasts swinging at shadows while they lose their bearings. Suddenly, a massive orange shockwave tears through the clearing, signaling the start of the real slaughter. Confused monsters stare through the thick smoke. The demons have no idea where the next hit is coming from, and honestly, that's exactly how Ong planned it. He's treating this entire battle like a game of high-stakes chess, moving his pieces into position while Suejo darts in with her daggers to deliver 1,000 tiny cuts. Finally, Ong steps into the light with a serrated blade and a terrifying look in his golden eyes. He isn't just aiming for a quick kill, he's planning to break every single joint in their bodies just to see them flail. A massive fist slams the ground. Lan Sinuo dives headfirst into the pack of monsters, screaming for them to taste his fist as he pummels anything with a pulse into the dirt. He is acting like a literal human wrecking ball right now, creating a massive pocket of space to make sure the team doesn't get overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. Situ Lu leaps high into the air. She is determined to wrap this up with maximum style, calling out her overload treatment as jagged green energy slashes through the remaining beasts. She lands gracefully while the monsters behind her dissolve into dust, even taking a second to compliment her own splendid performance. It's clear she's really feeling herself, but with that kind of lethal kill count, it's hard to argue with the results. Pink hair shines in the light. Suejo realizes the toxic fog is finally dispelling, signaling that their mission tech has been inserted stably into the terrain. Lan Sinuo wipes the sweat from his brow, letting out a massive sigh of relief that the slaughter is finally over. But then, they spot it, a high-grade red core sitting right in the dirt. Finding loot like this is a massive windfall for a rookie squad, but Ong just stands there with that cold, golden gaze, looking like he expected this victory from the very start. Ong stands calmly over the blood-stained battlefield. The system chimes in, confirming they've just secured their first 10 points of the day. It's a decent start, but Suejo Yuhui is already geeking out over how the mission chips autosync with the city's global leaderboard. They still have to capture 3 demons alive and harvest 7 more cores to finish the set. It's a massive task, but for the first time, this loser squad actually looks like they might survive. Suejo collapses onto the dusty ground for a breather. Lon Sinuo lets out a dry laugh, reminding everyone that while they're working hard, every other elite team is out there doing the exact same thing. Situ Lu isn't bothered by the competition, though. She stands tall, her silver hair catching the fading light as she announces her plan to dominate the A-rank board. Suejo looks up in awe, literally seeing her leader sparkle with a brand new kind of intensity. Lon Sinuo glances over at the scrawny hero. He calls him Brother Ong, but the former king immediately shuts that down, insisting they're just comrades and Ong is more than enough. There's no room for hierarchy in a death zone, and they need to move fast if they want to bridge the point gap. Ong knows that if they don't pick up the pace, they'll be left behind. Standing around won't win wars, they have to be the ones who strike first. A faint, rare smile touches Aang's lips. He didn't think he'd ever feel this kind of youthful passion again, but the unyielding stubbornness of these kids is actually starting to rub off on him. It's a strange feeling for an ancient warrior, but it makes him feel more alive than he has in centuries. Situ Lu finally gives the signal to move out. The squad charges forward, ready to turn the wasteland into their personal scoring ground. Situ Lu looks shocked and annoyed. She's just realized Ong totally hijacked her big leader speech and left her hanging in the wind. It's a brief moment of comedy before they get back to the grind, successfully securing 3 live targets as Lon Sinuo celebrates the massive win. Capturing these beasts alive is 10 times harder than just killing them, but the point payoff is what's going to save their rank. A massive red beast hangs upside down. This nightmare fuel monster is absolutely huge, and it's finally been neutralized thanks to their specialized tactical gear. Situ Lu pulls out a sleek metallic pistol, explaining that it's a nanoparticle demon tranquilizer designed for high-level captures. Each of these special bullets is worth a fortune, so they really can't afford to miss when the A-rank targets start swarming. Ong crouches over a fallen monster. He's looking at the tranquilized beast and marveling at how much hunting has evolved since his previous life. Back then, he didn't have fancy gadgets, so he'd just smash their skulls until they stopped moving entirely. He actually chuckles to himself, remembering how ancient researchers used to complain that his samples were always too brain damaged to study. Several dead monsters litter the ground. They managed to get their 3 live captures, but they had to slaughter dozens of other beasts just to clear the area. The air is thick with the scent of blood, and the sheer brutality of the wasteland is finally sinking in for the team. There's no time to relax, though, because the sun is dipping below the horizon and the city gates definitely won't stay open for anyone left in the dark. Silver hair glows in the setting sun. Situ Lu reminds the team about the Academy's iron rule: if they're late back to the gates, the punishment will be severe. It's a total reality check that proves the wasteland isn't their only enemy. Suejo Yuhui tries to lighten the mood by dreaming of dinner, but Situ Lu remains distant. She's questioning if she even has a place to call home anymore before deciding to head back to the dojo. Honestly, this brief moment of peace was never going to last in a place this hostile. Red energy ripples through the darkening air. Aang's golden eyes sharpen as he detects a massive spike in murderous intent nearby. He's the first to realize they're being hunted by something far more dangerous than monsters. The team is caught off guard while trying to secure their targets, failing to notice the silhouettes moving in the trees. Situ Lu's pupils dilate in total shock as she finally feels the oppressive aura crushing the area. It's a heavy, suffocating pressure that signals an immediate threat. A mangled beast lies rotting in the dirt. A voice from the shadows coldly states that the squad won't be allowed to complete their mission today. This is a blatant attempt at sabotage by people who should be their allies. Suejo panics, demanding to know who's there, just as a group of elite seniors appears on the cliffs above. Their sandy-haired leader looks down with pure disgust that a bottom-tier team snagged all the A-rank rewards. He's convinced these rookies stole the glory, and he's not about to let them walk away with it without a fight. A red demonic mural looms behind. The seniors are livid, demanding to know who let a bunch of nobody rookies snatch up their planned missions. It's a blatant attempt to bully them into handing over the loot before things get ugly. Ong just watches, but these guys aren't just randoms, they're from the elite Black Gun Squad. They think their name alone should be enough to make the team start shaking in their boots. The sandy-haired leader eyes the rookies. He's tallying up the squads, clearly annoyed that so many new faces are cluttering his hunting grounds today. To him, strength doesn't matter if you don't follow the unspoken rules of the Academy's social ladder. He mocks them for being rebellious, acting like they've committed a high crime by simply doing their jobs. He's clearly just looking for an excuse to get physical. A tactical boot crushes the grass. They claim the rookies failed to seek approval from their betters before engaging the target. It's a psychological move designed to make Aang's team feel small and insignificant. The seniors surround them, testing their resolve with pure, unadulterated arrogance. They really think they're the law out here in the wasteland, and honestly, they're used to people just letting them have their way. Situ Lu stands over a carcass. She mentions how hard they worked for this kill, but her words only fuel the seniors' fire. Her noble pride is being tested by people who value rank over actual combat results. The tension snaps when the leader finally loses his patience with their silence. He barks out a final demand, wondering why she hasn't led her lowly squad to bow and greet them properly yet. Situ Lu swings her blade with lethal intent. She's officially done with the seniority talk and lets her steel do the negotiating, nearly catching the seniors off guard. The upperclassmen recoil in shock, screaming about how undisciplined rookies have no right to raise a hand against them. Luckily, Lan Sinuo steps in and physically restrains Lu, desperately trying to de-escalate before this turns into a sanctioned execution. The senior leader's eyes narrow with pure malice. He finds their talk of reason pathetic, claiming his team spent hours capturing those beasts just for Aang's squad to kill them. He calls the group naive, mocking the idea that effort matters more than the social hierarchy of the academy. Inside her head, Situ Lu is absolutely fuming. She's the leader, and being talked down to like a child is a stain on her family's pride she can't just ignore. A dark shadow streaks across the dirt. Aang finally stops playing the observer, moving with such predatory speed that he looks like a red-eyed demon blurring past the seniors. Before anyone can blink, he's standing at the front of the pack, looking the senior leader dead in the eye. He doesn't bow or apologize, he tells them to fuck right off and calls their unwritten rules complete bullshit. It's a bold move that draws a line in the sand. In the wasteland, the only thing that earns respect is strength, not a title. A red-haired senior clutches his head. He is losing his mind, screaming about how juniors should show some respect while Suejo and Situ Lu just look on with pure boredom. The guy is so embarrassed he calls for his squad, the Black Gun, to gear up for a full-blown fight. His teammates aren't backing down either, shouting their agreement like they actually have a chance. This isn't just a squabble anymore, it is about to become a total bloodbath. High-speed blurs streak across the wasteland. They lunge forward with a shout to go, but Aang doesn't even flinch as the seniors swarm his position. He stands there with a stoic expression while Lan Sinuo and Situ Lu stay locked in right behind him. The senior leader tries to make a move, his body trailing a jagged red aura as he pushes past the perimeter. But even with all that flash, they cannot seem to find a single opening in Aang's defense. Sharp golden eyes flare behind tactical goggles. The senior leader realizes mid-air that he is completely outclassed and decides to bail before things get ugly. He performs a massive acrobatic leap, signaling his squad to pull back into the tree line immediately. It is a sudden retreat that leaves the dust settling between the two groups. Why would a top-tier senior squad run from a bunch of rookies they were just insulting? Aang slides into a low crouch. He sounds almost disappointed, muttering that he actually wanted to see what modern warriors were capable of in a real scrap. As he watches them leave, he realizes the guy leading them is none other than squadron leader Ji Yaotang. It is a name that carries weight in this academy, but to Aang, it is just another name on a list. The real threat isn't these guys, it is whatever is happening back at the city walls. A red-haired student points a finger at Situ Lu. He is desperately trying to pin the blame on them, telling Ji Yaotang that Aang's squad are the real aggressors. But Suejo Yuhui has the ultimate trump card. She has been recording the whole time. Ji Yaotang is stunned, not by the video, but by the fact that these rookies were actually tackling an A-rank mission. It is a massive reality check for the seniors who thought they were the only big shots around here. Situ Lu explains the situation with icy calm. She makes it clear they did the work, and the seniors only showed up to wreck the results. Ji Yaotang looks toward the digital leaderboard, his eyes glowing with a cold, calculated intensity. He tells them flat out that unless someone is literally dying, any form of competition is allowed in the academy. It is a brutal system where the points justify the means, leaving Aang's team to realize that fair is not in the curriculum. Ji Yaotang walks past the young recruits. He warns them that the real threats coming to the city walls won't care about their feelings or their rankings. He orders the embarrassed seniors to retreat and reflect on why they let a bunch of rookies humiliate them. Just as the tension seems to break, Ji Yaotang pauses and calls out to the man in the back. He addresses Aang directly, acknowledging the golden-eyed warrior who has been hiding his true power in plain sight. The senior leader throws his head back in a mocking laugh. He's not just dismissing them, he's laying down a challenge. He tells Aang straight to his face that he's going to make sure their squad stays at the dead bottom of the leaderboard. This guy is officially making it personal. He points a finger at his own cheek, promising to pay Aang back for the humiliation he just endured. It's a cold declaration of war that shifts the vibe from a simple mission to a full-blown rivalry. The seniors turn their backs and walk away into the orange sunset. They aren't just leaving, they're retreating to wait for a better opening. The name Black Gun is whispered among the group, carrying a weight that the rookies don't quite grasp yet. These guys are the established elite, and they don't take kindly to being upstaged by a group of bottom-tier students. As the light fades, the reality of the social hierarchy in this academy starts to feel a lot more suffocating. Situ Lu stands still, watching the group's retreating silhouettes with a grim look. She knows that Black Gun isn't necessarily the strongest squad in terms of raw power, but they are infamous for their swift execution. They specialize in dirty tactics and sabotage, often destroying a rival's mission progress just to keep them in their place. We see a brief flash of their brutal efficiency in action. This isn't just about monster hunting anymore, it's about surviving the people who are supposed to be on your side. Situ Lu looks down with a conflicted and weary expression. She's the leader on paper, but the weight of this new threat is clearly getting to her. She realizes that being associated with Aang has put a massive target on all their backs. After a moment, she shakes the thought away and tells the team to move out. She tries to act like she's fine, but the tension is thick. The peace they bought with their hard-earned points is already starting to crumble. Aang's golden eyes flare with focus. Situ Lu teases him about trying to look cool, but the vibe shifts as the team walks away under a blood-orange sunset. Lan Sinuo tries to bridge the gap, casually asking Aang if he wants to grab dinner with the squad. It's a friendly gesture from a guy who's finally found a leader he trusts, but Aang isn't interested in playing house. Dark hair with white streaks flashes. Underneath that calm exterior, Aang is actually plotting something that would make most veteran recruits quit on the spot. He's decided he's going to capture 3 demons alive tonight, all by himself, without his team even knowing. He's not just hunting for points anymore, he's testing the limits of his evolution to see how fast he can truly grow. Red hands clutch at Aang's face. This is the path of a reincarnated king, where the line between man and monster starts to blur with every kill. He's becoming the devil who never cries, and the academy has no idea what kind of apex predator they've let into their ranks. The world thinks he's just a talented rookie, but his soul is far more ancient and lethal. Searchlights cut through the dark night. While the city tries to sleep, the giant moon hangs over the heavy fortifications like an omen of the slaughter to come. Suddenly, the emergency speakers across the district crackle to life with a chilling automated warning. For your safety, do not leave the city walls. Aang crouches low near a massive wall. He's taking advantage of the citywide lockdown to slip away while everyone else is safely sequestered. Honestly, he's more interested in seeing what home looks like after he actually completes his mission. He spots a small gap in a temporary emergency gate that the military somehow overlooked. It's a huge security flaw, but for Aang, it's an invitation. If they didn't want people leaving, they should have locked the door. A sharp golden eye glints in the dark. Aang starts calculating his odds, thinking back to the forceful combat methods he mastered in his previous life. Catching 3 no-fin demons shouldn't be much of a challenge if he uses his raw strength. He even smirks, thinking he's the most ingenious recruit to ever walk these streets. But arrogance usually invites a reality check, and his is coming fast. Situ Lu stands silently in the shadows. Just as he's about to slip through the gap, he's blindsided by his squad leader's icy, judgmental stare. She demands to know what he's doing out here in the dead of night, basically catching him red-handed. It's an instant mood killer for his secret solo hunt. Now the question is, can he actually talk his way out of a direct confrontation with Lu? Aang rubs his neck while his stomach growls. The legendary warrior from 60 years ago is currently being betrayed by a very loud and very poorly timed hunger pang. He tries to pivot, claiming he only wanted to finish the hunt that the masked guy ruined earlier today. He points out that the mission deadline isn't officially up yet, so he's technically still working. It's a classic Aang move, blending total incompetence with a logic that's just barely enough to pass. Aang tries to walk away quickly. He begs his team not to snitch to the commanders, figuring he can just slip back into his bunk unnoticed. But Situ Lu isn't letting him off that easy, stepping into his path with a sharp, knowing smile. She's not here to report him, she wants in on whatever secret hunt he's planning. Aang lets out a dark, involuntary chuckle thinking about the look on the Black Gun Squad's faces tomorrow, which is honestly creepy enough to make even the cold-blooded Situ Lu flinch. High stone walls loom over the city. Up on the battlements, the night guards are struggling just to keep their eyes open in the freezing air. One recruit complains that leaving the gate slightly ajar during a lockdown is basically an invitation for a massacre. His veteran partner immediately shuts him down, reminding him of the horrific refugee incident from a few years back. The policy is simple. If that gate is fully sealed, anyone left outside is already a corpse. Shadowy monsters tear through screaming people. We see a glimpse of that past failure, where the gates were just a few seconds too slow to save a group of desperate survivors. The demons caught them right at the threshold, turning a rescue mission into a bloodbath. It's a grim reminder that in this era, military protocol usually takes a backseat to the sheer guilt of leaving people to die. They keep the gap open because the weight of those lost lives is a burden the city can't afford to carry again. A hand holds up a colorful book. The heavy atmosphere breaks instantly when one guard pulls out a smuggled female warrior photo book. He's blushing like crazy, bragging about how much he paid to get this exclusive content from another city. It's a classic, lowbrow distraction to keep them from thinking about the monsters in the dark. Little do they know, while they're focused on the pictures, the actual monsters are already closing in on the perimeter. 2 guards lose their minds over a glossy magazine. They're obsessed with Situ Lu's exclusive photos, completely unaware that the actual woman is currently sprinting through a pitch-black nightmare. Far beyond the city's protective walls, Situ Lu is struggling to keep pace as Aang leads her through the skeletal ruins of their former assessment venue. It's chilling to see the place so quiet, but there's no time for memories when the air smells like death. Aang comes to a dead halt in a desolate clearing. He turns back with those glowing golden eyes and coldly explains the plan. He's going to lure the monsters out, and she needs to aim for their heads to knock them unconscious. He's not looking for a body count. He needs live specimens to study his own growing power. Situ Lu watches him disappear into the heavy mist, her mind reeling at how a supposed low-tier recruit could be this calm. Situ Lu shakes her head to clear the doubt. She's alone in a forest teeming with demons, and for the first time, the weight of the situation actually hits her. Her chest tightens, and she starts wondering if this thumping in her heart is genuine fear or a weird surge of adrenaline. She bites her lip and forces herself to concentrate, knowing that one slip up in this fog means she's never going home. Jagged red streaks suddenly explode through the dark. Aang's movement is surgical as he begins luring the demons exactly where he wants them, shocking Situ Lu with his sheer level of expertise. He isn't just fighting, he's manipulating the battlefield to isolate no-fin demons one by one. This tactic completely changes the game, turning a suicidal mission into a controlled harvest that makes capturing these monsters alive look terrifyingly easy. Aang's face is locked in focus. He shouts for Situ Lu to close the gap as they dive back into the chaos. Their movements are a blur of high-speed coordination, with boots slamming into the asphalt as they corner their next target. This isn't a chaotic brawl, it's a surgical strike. The way they're handling these monsters makes the city's standard military tactics look like amateur hour. A heavy blow strikes a demon's head. Under Aang's precise direction, the duo repeatedly targets the demon's skulls to trigger massive disorientation. They're basically toying with the beasts now, landing hit after hit until the monsters are too dizzy to even stand. It's a complete humiliation of the demonic threat. Watching a rookie lead an elite like this is honestly mind-blowing, but the process is far more taxing than it looks. The red demon hits the dirt hard. This brute force capture method is incredibly effective, but it's draining their stamina at an alarming rate. Aang wipes sweat from his forehead, frustrated that his current scrawny body can't keep up with his veteran instincts. He's got the soul of a king but the physical limits of a recruit, and the gap is starting to show. If his body gives out now, the hunt is over before it really begins. Situ Lu leans over her prey. She's completely winded, admitting that this live capture is way harder than any dojo drill she's ever done. They finally bag their third demon, but she's worried about leaving them exposed in the open while they continue. Aang quickly reassures her, noting that these no-finned idiots aren't smart enough to mount a rescue mission. They've secured the payload, but the real question is whether they can make it back to the walls before the higher-tier predators catch their scent. Aang squats over the unconscious monsters, calmly explaining that they won't be waking up after those precise hits to the head. He's already planning to head back tomorrow to officially submit the mission and call it a day. Situ Lu just stares at him, her face covered in sweat as she asks the million-dollar question. How does a low-rank recruit know all this? Before he can cook up another lie, the shadows around them begin to crawl with a life of their own. A one-finned demon lunges from a nearby structure, cackling about finally finding its human prey. This isn't some mindless grunt, it has enough intelligence to track them and enough hunger to make it terrifying. Situ Lu freezes as she realizes this isn't just a random encounter. There are two of them, and high-tier demons like this shouldn't be wandering this close to the perimeter. They've gone from being the hunters to being completely surrounded in a matter of seconds. High above them, massive spotlights sweep across the wasteland as the city's defense sirens begin to wail. Commander Ji Yaotang and Dada Jiao rush to the edge of the wall, looking down at a radar that's lighting up like a Christmas tree. The soldiers are frantic, reporting multiple one-fin signatures closing in on the gates. Ji Yaotang looks genuinely rattled, staring into the dark and muttering about a demon he supposedly killed in an underground cave. If that thing is back, then the rules of this war just changed for everyone. Soldiers lean over the fortress edge. They've finally locked onto the target, and the sheer panic in their voices says it all as they shout for the squadron leaders to look down. It's a total disaster because two massive signatures are appearing simultaneously, leaving the commanders wondering what could possibly be luring them to the gates. There's no time for a debrief, though, and the heavy defensive turrets start humming with a deadly, orange glow as they prepare to wipe the field clean. Ji Yaotang shouts over the alarms. He's ordering the crew to keep the gates wide open, even though the demonic signatures are closing in fast. Dada Jiao points into the darkness, noticing a flicker of movement that shouldn't be there, and calls for the spotlights to sweep the area immediately. Ji Yaotang's face twists in pure rage and horror when the light hits the ground, revealing that brats from Team 9 are standing right in the middle of the impact zone. Bright beams sweep across the wasteland. They instantly pick out Situ Lu's silhouette, and Dada Jiao can barely believe her eyes as she calls out to Tang Tang in a total panic. Ji Yaotang's golden eyes are blown wide, staring at the recruits who are supposed to be locked safely behind titanium walls. The tension is at a breaking point because the turrets are seconds away from firing, and he has to decide between saving the city or his own students. A streak of blue light descends. It's Aang, appearing like a guardian or a ghost amidst the chaos, but he isn't looking like a scrawny recruit anymore. As the shadows wrap around him, his evolution hits a fever pitch, manifesting red horns and a terrifying demonic aura that mirrors the ancient crimson-finned king. The survival instinct has officially taken over, and as the red hands of his past reach out to claim him, Aang is about to show everyone why he was once the undisputed king of the battlefield. Dada Jiao stares with wide blue eyes. She's losing her mind because the recruits have somehow bypassed the city's high-tech security and are now standing completely exposed in the wasteland. Right at their feet lie three no-fin demons, tangled and immobilized in high-tension cables. It's an insane flex for a rookie like Aang, but bringing live monsters to the gate during a lockdown is a recipe for a total disaster. Ji Yaotang watches the scene. He realizes these kids were trying to pull off a high-stakes night mission to capture specimens, proving that overconfidence is a problem all rookie warriors have. Before he can even yell, a massive red energy beam erupts from the shadows, forcing Joel to leap for his life. That's the danger of talent. It makes you feel invincible right until the moment you're almost vaporized. Sharp red light glows against dark. Dada Jiao watches the remote combat feed in horror as the demonic energy levels spike way beyond the safety threshold. Joel is caught mid-air in a desperate maneuver, his tactical suit glowing with a bright red emergency pulse as he tries to tank the incoming pressure. One wrong move here and his entire squad is going to become a footnote in the city's next casualty report. Ground-level explosions shatter the night. The commander's rare night of drinking is officially ruined because the demons aren't just wandering, they've clearly realized the humans are there. Deep in the forest, Situ Lu is backed against a tree as blue predators close in from the branches above. Aang doesn't hesitate for a second, stepping into her line of sight and coldly telling her to get behind him. Aang's golden eyes narrow as he scans the dark. He realizes the monsters aren't just hunting for food, they're hunting him because his reincarnated soul is like a beacon in the night. Situ Lu refuses to play the damsel though, stepping into a combat stance and insisting they take this fight together as a unit. Right as they lock in, a massive demonic maw unhinges in the shadows, dripping with a terrifying hunger. The scale of the hunt has officially shifted from a simple training exercise to a high-stakes death match. A blue-skinned demon slams into the ground. The creature lands with a heavy thud, its predatory gaze locked onto the pair while dust swirls around its claws. Aang senses the killing blow coming and screams for everyone to watch out, throwing himself into a desperate roll to clear the kill zone. A split second later, a pillar of jagged crimson energy detonates in the center of the clearing. The ground literally shatters into a smoking crater, leaving the recruits with the terrifying realization that the real war has finally reached their doorstep. Aang blurs through the rising smoke. His reflexes are borderline inhuman, his boots carving deep tracks into the dirt as he avoids the following shockwaves from the blast. Situ Lu follows his lead, her enchanted blade slicing through a sudden burst of water that shouldn't even exist in this dry forest. She's genuinely stunned to see the liquid splashing off her steel, realizing their improvised tactic actually landed a solid hit on the demon. But the relief doesn't last for more than a heartbeat as a voice from the back tells them to look up. Something much bigger is looming over the battlefield. A blue-skinned demon lies pinned. Situ Lu's water-based agility trap is finally locking into place, wrapping the monster's legs in tight, glowing blue energy threads that pulse with every struggle. It's a textbook capture for any elite squad, but in this wasteland, things never go that smoothly. Aang watches with a cold stare. He mutters that getting distracted is a death sentence, right as Situ Lu loses her focus for a single, fatal heartbeat. Before the demon can capitalize on the opening, a massive fist connects with its jaw, sending teeth and black blood flying in a violent explosion of jagged red energy. It's a brutal, messy intervention, proving that Aang is the only one truly ready for this level of violence. Commanders Tang and Dada Jiao arrive. They step into the clearing with an aura of total authority, calmly telling the shaken recruits they're safe now while surveying the surrounding carnage. Dada Jiao immediately shifts her focus to saving Situ Lu, realizing the girl is burning through her blue core water-type energy just to stay upright. It's a relief to have the military's heavy hitters on site, but their presence alone signals that this mission has officially spiraled out of control. A cracked demonic mask laughs. Despite the head-splitting impact, the demon is still breathing and mocking them, cackling about how its head almost exploded from that last hit. This isn't just some random skirmish, it's the vanguard of a full-scale breach. Back at the city walls, Joel's face turns pale as the sensors go haywire, reporting a massive swarm of no-fin demons heading straight for them. He screams for the defensive cannons to get ready, but the monsters are already too close. If they fire, they'll hit their own soldiers, but if they wait, the city is finished. A girl screams with wide eyes. The scouts aren't just worried, they're losing their minds as the sky above Helios City turns a sickening, bruised shade of crimson. Under the shadow of that blood-red moon, the landscape below is crawling with high-tier predators moving in perfect, lethal unison. This isn't a random raid anymore, it's an organized massacre that's been brewing for decades. The sheer speed of the demonic evolution is catching everyone off guard. Sharp energy slashes through the darkness. The defensive lines are shattering before the first cannon shots can even be fired. Joel grits his teeth until they nearly crack, sweat pouring down his face as he bellows for the emergency alarms to wake the entire district. Then, the true scale of the nightmare hits. A literal ocean of purple-black demonic energy is swarming the base of the massive city walls. If the gate falls now, there won't be a city left to defend by morning. Soldiers sprint toward the heavy gates. Every able-bodied warrior is being thrown into the meat grinder just to buy the civilians a few more seconds of life. Aang watches the shifting horizon with his piercing golden eyes, realizing these monsters aren't acting on instinct alone. They're tactical, well-prepared, and they've bypassed every major sensor to catch the military with their pants down. It's a chess move, and humanity is currently losing every piece on the board. Situ Lu stares down in despair. She's bleeding and mentally broken, drowning in the guilt of thinking her recklessness dragged the entire squadron into this suicide mission. She tries to push the others away, begging them to save the city instead of her, but the self-pity doesn't last. An cuts her off with a cold, sharp command to shut up. He isn't about to let his leader die over a little bit of trauma while the real fight is just beginning. Lan Sinuo charges with his chest core glowing red. He's trying to brute force his way through the chaos to protect the squad, but the ground suddenly erupts into a massive forest of jagged, blood-red fins that tear the landscape apart. The sheer scale of the eruption is insane, forcing Situ Lu and the others to dive for cover just to avoid being shredded instantly. This isn't just an attack. It's a statement of total dominance from a high-tier threat that's clearly enjoying the hunt. Lan Sinuo yells as the shockwave hits him. The impact is so violent it sends the squad's primary heavy hitter tumbling through the dirt like he weighs absolutely nothing. He's gasping for air, realization dawning on him that even his high-spec grafting equipment can't stand up to this level of raw demonic pressure. It's a terrifying wake-up call for the recruits, proving that they are dangerously out of their league in this part of the wasteland. An watches the carnage with cold golden eyes. Instead of retreating with the rest of the panicked squad, he simply tells the demon to, "Let's go," and starts walking straight into the path of those lethal red spikes. Lan Sinuo can only watch in pure, wide-eyed disbelief from the ground, his mind racing to find an explanation. He's wondering how on earth a supposed bottom-tier recruit is casually strolling through a kill zone that just leveled a veteran soldier. Dust and jagged energy fill the entire air. Lan Sinuo is still struggling to make sense of the massive power gap, but the real nightmare finally steps out from the shadows to greet them. A blue-skinned demonic entity with long white hair watches Aang's approach, beckoning him forward with a chilling, single-word invitation to come closer. Situ Lu is paralyzed as she realizes the person she thought she was leading is something far more dangerous and ancient than anyone imagined. Aang's dark silhouette stands against the jagged terrain. He realizes too late that he's walked into a lethal setup. He tells himself to stay calm because acting like a hero without the physical muscle to back it up is just a suicide mission. He knows his current vessel isn't ready for a head-on collision with a high-tier demon, but his ancient instincts are already taking over. He looks over his shoulder toward the dark tree line. Situ Lu is paralyzed, her eyes welling with distress as she faces a level of horror her elite training never prepared her for. That look of absolute despair is hauntingly familiar to An. It mirrors the faces of the friends he lost 60 years ago, and seeing it again is enough to break his resolve to stay hidden. Aang's gloved hand tightens into a heavy fist. His golden eyes ignite with a predatory light as he prepares to shatter the limits of his current body. Honestly, he knows the smart move is to vanish, but his pride as the former king of humanity won't let him turn his back on a comrade. He's finished with playing the weakling, and if he has to burn his soul to protect her, he'll do it. He lunges forward, his white gloves slicing through the gray mist as he commits to the rescue. The thought of abandoning her is impossible, even if it means the world finally sees what he really is. Suddenly, a massive red horn emerges from the crimson horizon. The eight-finned king has finally arrived to collect. White text flashes on black. Fog then rolls through the forest where the blue one-finned demon towers over a fallen Situ Lu. The noble warrior is pinned to the dirt, wrapped in glowing blue bindings that keep her completely immobile. It's a nightmare scenario for an A-rank fighter. Seeing her this helpless makes you wonder if anyone can actually stop this thing. A bone-white skull mask leans in. The monster mocks her, claiming he lives for the sound of human despair and screams. He demands she beg for her life while Situ Lu glares back, her mouth clamped shut by a blue energy seal. She's not breaking yet, but the pressure is suffocating. Ancient tree trunks frame the girl. The monster mocks her silence, ordering her to finally scream as he towers over her. He's waiting for her spirit to snap so he can truly enjoy the kill. Situ Lu is clearly outmatched, but she isn't folding yet. Situ Lu's cold blue eyes narrow. Instead of begging, she asks if this freak actually thinks he's worthy of hearing her voice. It's a bold move that catches the demon off guard. He repeats the word worthy with a twisted grin, clearly amused by her defiance. The girl sits upright despite restraints. She declares her martial lineage, vowing never to bow before demanding he either kill her or fight. The demon responds with a jagged, bone-chilling laugh. He's clearly found a new favorite toy. The blue demon roars in manic rage. He looms over a broken Situ Lu, cruelly mocking her by calling her nothing but bait. It's a moment of total psychological warfare that leaves her trembling on the dirt. As she stares up at her executioner, the demon promises that her death is inevitable. Her eyes lose their spark, finally accepting that no one is coming to save her. A dark silhouette interrupts the slaughter. A sudden shout echoes through the fog, making the massive beast freeze in its tracks. It's Aang, standing tall with glowing gold eyes and a drawn blade. He demands the demon release her, making it clear that he's the one the monster is actually after. Situ Lu can only watch in shock, terrified that he's just signed Aang's face. The demon mocks Aang's weakness despite his secret victory in the cave. Aang plays dumb, but it only fuels the monster's predatory grin. A jagged smile fills the frame. Aang screams as the demon begins to physically break his body. The power gap is just disgusting to watch. Two silhouettes stand against the fog. The demon calls on a liar and decides he must die, slamming him into a crater. His human vessel is finally at its breaking point. A blue blur slams into the dirt. The demon pummels Ong into a massive crater with bone-shattering force. It's a complete physical shutdown for our hero as the ground gives way beneath him. Ong lies broken in the smoke. He's coughing blood and wondering if his organs are even intact after that beating. Honestly, for a former king, losing to a low-tier demon like this is the ultimate insult to his pride. Situ Lu struggles to her feet. She's desperate to reach him, but her body is just too slow to react in time. The proud leader is stuck watching the carnage unfold from the sidelines. The monster looms over its prey. The demon decides to eat Ong to force its own evolution, reaching down to finally finish the job. He isn't just looking for a kill, he's looking for a demonic upgrade. A blue hand reaches for Ong. The demon expects an easy snack, but a green blur slams into its skull out of nowhere. Situ Lu finally pushes past her limits to intercept the killing blow. It's a clutch save that actually catches the monster off guard. Situ Lu delivers a powerful kick. She puts every ounce of strength into this impact, sending the demon sliding back. She gracefully flips through the air and sticks a heavy landing. Situ Lu is officially back in the fight and looks absolutely lethal. Glowing blue eyes glare at the demon. Situ Lu warns the beast never to touch her squad member again while shielding Ong. Even Ong is shocked she managed to break free from her own fear. Now the question is, can she actually hold this thing off? Situ Lu stands defiantly while the blue demon admits he's surprised she broke his mental shackles. On the ground, Ong can only mutter her name, watching her bruised silhouette face the monster alone. The demon calls her a ruthless fellow for pushing through the pain. She's clearly outmatched, but her stance is rock solid. A glowing green eye narrows as Situ Lu tells the beast he'll have to kill her before touching her squad. The demon just smirks, gathering crackling blue energy into his muscular arm. He tells her not to dodge before unleashing a massive rain of energy projectiles. She's standing in a literal storm of death now, and there's no room for error. Situ Lu stands amidst blue energy streaks. She refuses to flinch as a barrage of energy spikes slams into the earth around her. She's playing a dangerous game of human shield, and it's costing her. Ong grovels on the shattered stone floor. He desperately shouts for her to dodge, but Situ Lu snaps back that moving would get him killed instantly. Her pride is the only thing keeping them both alive right now. A blue-clawed hand points downward. The blue demon suddenly looks distracted, warning that a swarm is coming from below as Aang's foot begins to levitate. The rules just changed, and Aang's hidden power is finally waking up. Situ Lu flies backward mid-air. The blue demon isn't playing around anymore, dragging her toward him while demanding they come here. He's completely dominating the battlefield now. Honestly, it's a miracle she's even still breathing, but Aang is forced to watch his only ally get picked apart. A massive hand grabs Situ Lu. The demon mocks her pride, asking if she really wants to die in battle. He decides killing her is too easy and promises to humiliate her until she's screaming. A blue hand pins silver hair. The blue one-fin demon has Situ Lu right where he wants her, mocking her noble resolve to die like a warrior on the battlefield. He isn't planning on giving her a quick end, choosing instead to humiliate her until she's screaming for mercy. It's a disgusting display of power that leaves Lu completely paralyzed and at his whim. Yellow eyes glow through dark fringe. Aang is forced to watch this nightmare unfold, his vision blurring as demonic imagery begins to haunt his thoughts. He gasps for air through the blood, barely managing to force the words out to tell the monster to let Lu go. Honestly, he's at his absolute physical breaking point, but the instinct to protect is finally overriding the damage to his body. He knows if he doesn't act now, there won't be anything left of her to save. Blood drips onto the cracked stone. Aang's pride is taking a much heavier beating than his actual body right now, and he's hating every second he spent relying on Lu to save him. He's supposed to be the world's strongest warrior, yet here he is, unable to stand while his teammate faces a fate worse than death. The trauma of watching people die in his past life is bubbling up, and he refuses to let history repeat itself. Red energy tears through the air. Suddenly, the entire atmosphere shifts as a violent, jagged surge of power erupts from Aang, catching the arrogant blue demon completely off guard. A massive strike of crimson and black energy slashes across the scene with enough force to warp the air itself. The crazy part is, Aang has finally stopped holding back, tapping into a demonic source that changes the entire nature of this fight. Red energy slashes the screen. Aang catches Situ Lu before she hits the dirt, quietly telling her she did great for her first time acting as a leader. It's a weirdly soft moment for a guy who just nuked the entire battlefield. He looks back with a glowing yellow eye, telling her to just leave the rest to him. Honestly, the look on his face right now is more terrifying than the demon he's actually fighting. The blue demon recoils back. He starts sniffing the air like a panicked animal, realizing Aang smells exactly like one of them, but with a scent that's way more intense. This changes everything the demon thought he knew about the limits of a human. Aang stands his ground while a violent red aura swirls around him, admitting he doesn't actually know what's happening to his own body either. Aang clutches his aching head. He can feel this new power surging out of his chest, and it's so raw he thinks it might actually pierce right through his skin. It looks like his body is physically struggling to contain the massive upgrade. His eyes start to bleed as the demonic energy takes over, and you have to wonder if he's even in the driver's seat anymore or if the monster has taken over. Jagged red light fills the air. A mysterious, glowing core suddenly appears inside Ong, and the sight of it sends the blue demon into a total state of shock. He's literally trembling, recognizing that core is something ancient and far more powerful than himself. Situ Lu watches from the dirt, barely able to recognize her own teammate as he stands there looking like a true harbinger of death. Aang's chest core glows bright red. He stares the monster down with those sharp yellow eyes and tells him flat out that his life is over. This isn't just an empty threat. Aang's one-fin form is officially awakened, and the demonic energy is overflowing. He explodes into a blur of jagged red light, darting across the cave floor like a lethal shadow. The speed is so intense that the blue demon can't even get a read on his position. It's a total shift in momentum that leaves the entire battlefield covered in glowing red streaks. The blue demon grips his head in pain. He's completely disoriented, his head spinning from the sheer, crushing weight of the aura Ong is putting off. He's having a total mental crisis, wondering how a supposed human could possibly smell and feel like one of his own kind. Situ Lu watches from the dirt, desperately telling herself to stay focused even though she's completely stunned. Before the demon can even recover, Ong closes the distance and lands a heavy impact that sends a massive shockwave through the solid rock floor. Silver hair flies as Situ Lu jumps. She tries to find a safe opening while Ong continues his relentless, high-speed assault, finally landing a devastating strike that shatters the demon's defense. Green blood sprays everywhere as the monster is sent crashing back into the cave walls. Debris is falling from the ceiling, and the entire cavern feels like it's about to collapse under the pressure of this fight. Situ Lu can only stand there in total shock, realizing that Ong isn't just strong, he's on a level that defies everything she ever knew about power. Yellow light flashes around the demon. The blue demon is completely rattled, realizing his high-tier defenses are totally useless against Aang's onslaught. The thing is, this isn't even a fight anymore, it has turned into a straight-up execution. Aang isn't letting up for a second, moving with a speed that looks like a blur of pure violence. He's closing the distance to end this once and for all. A massive red beam of energy erupts. Aang unleashes a concentrated blast of power that tears through the cavern air with terrifying force. The impact is sickening as it punches a massive, hollow hole right through the center of the demon's chest. The monster looks down at his mangled body in total disbelief at the gap in power. He never thought a human could open a hole like that in his physical form. Situ Lu screams out in terror. She immediately realizes the demon isn't actually finishing his life quietly and is instead overloading his internal core to self-destruct. It's a final, desperate suicide move designed to kill everyone within the blast radius. The demon sneers through the pain, determined to take his killers with him to the grave. The question is, does Aang have enough strength left to survive a demonic nuke? A giant pillar of light explodes. The entire cavern is consumed by a blinding, white-hot flash as the demon's internal energy detonates. It's a violent shockwave that levels every piece of stone left in the area. The scale of the explosion makes it look like nothing could survive at the center of that intense heat. Everything goes white as the power peaks for one last, destructive moment. Smoke and dust settle over debris. The demon's voice rasps out one last, hateful curse against humanity before his body finally dissolves into nothingness. The threat is gone, but the heavy silence that follows is almost more terrifying than the fight itself. Situ Lu watches the shadows, wondering if Aang survived the blast or if he paid the ultimate price to keep her safe. Beams of blue light hit a wall. The defensive artillery finally roars to life, raining white-hot energy onto the encroaching horde from the fortress heights. It's a desperate attempt to hold the line, but the sheer volume of monsters is suffocating. Even with the big guns firing at max capacity, the tide isn't slowing down. Honestly, the situation is looking grim. If these massive cannons can't thin the herd right now, the entire defensive perimeter is going to collapse into dust. A fighter leaps over gnashing monsters. Everywhere you look, there's just more teeth and claws pushing through the smoke and debris. One soldier stares into the pitch-black chaos, his purple eyes glowing with a mix of fear and exhaustion as he realizes the math just doesn't add up anymore. There's no way to kill them all before they're completely overrun. The order to retreat back to the city echoes through the comms as the main demon wave finally arrives to finish them off. Two leaders argue over the retreat. Tang Tang is visibly shaken, desperately wanting to stay because she knows if they leave now, Aang and Situ Lu are as good as dead. But the blonde commander shuts it down, reminding her that they aren't just leaders, they're the city's last line of defense. It's the ultimate survival dilemma, choosing between the lives of their friends or the safety of thousands of innocent people. They have to make the hard call and abandon their comrades to the dark. With a final, pained command to support the city, they launch back into the sky. A massive blue hand shadows Aang. The demon stares down at him, completely lost as to why this human feels like one of his own kind. He even asks why Aang feels the same as a high-tier demon. While Situ Lu lies broken and bleeding in the dirt, Aang's presence shifts. His yellow eyes flare with a predatory light that signals the real fight is finally starting. Aang clenches his fist near his chest. He reflects on the demonic power he was given, knowing it's the only way to actually change this dark reality. There's no hesitation left as he launches a strike that moves faster than the eye can follow. He's crossing the line between human and monster just to save his team. Glowing green energy pulses from the ground. Ong isn't just fighting, he's actually using his wood-type essence to heal Situ Lu's lethal injuries. Tiny white crosses flutter through the air as the healing field stabilizes her. It's a massive flex of power to focus on recovery while staring down a literal nightmare that wants him dead. The blue demon's eyes widen in shock. He recognizes the wood-type energy and starts remembering a similar power from a past era. The monster gets greedy, thinking if he eats Ong, he might obtain a new elemental affinity. But the counterattack is so violent the demon can only scream in confusion. He's being completely overwhelmed by a force that shouldn't exist in a human body. It's not just strength, it's a terrifying authority. Ong stands surrounded by massive jagged wood. He lets out a low, dark laugh as his eyes flare with a sharp, predatory yellow light. This isn't the behavior of a rookie anymore. He's actively pushing the boundaries of the demonic energy coursing through his veins. He stares down at his own hand as it's enveloped in a thick, red and black aura that pulses like a heartbeat. The sheer intensity of the output is staggering, and he seems almost drunk on the rush of this forbidden strength. He's no longer just fighting for survival, he's testing the very limits of what it means to be a demon king. Situ Lu stares at the massive pillar. She watches in absolute silence as the energy continues to swirl around the battlefield in chaotic waves. She realizes Ong hasn't just won the exchange, he has physically absorbed the wood-type abilities and the very core of the one-fin demon. It's a level of power absorption that shouldn't be possible for any human warrior, regardless of their family lineage. She looks at him with genuine fear, trembling as she asks if he's actually turned into a monster right before her eyes. For a noble like her, seeing a comrade cross this line is more terrifying than the demon itself. Ong looks down with a cold expression. He reflects on his previous life as the strongest warrior, realizing that even back then, he had never seen a high-tier demon show such visible, pathetic fear. The predator has officially become the prey, and the blue demon is paralyzed by the overwhelming pressure Ong is radiating. Ong takes a heavy, deliberate step forward, his boots grinding against the warped, wooden landscape he just created. Situ Lu can only watch in total horror as the dark, swirling energy begins to mask Aang's features, turning him into a terrifying shadow. The air feels heavy and suffocating, signaling that the boy she knew might be gone for good. Ong stares with glowing yellow eyes. He taunts the blue demon with a cold smirk, telling him to bring every bit of his strength because he needs to test what this new form can actually do. They clash in a high-speed blur that leaves burning trails of light in the air as their powers collide. The demon is losing his mind, screaming about whether he's fighting a man or a literal monster. Ong doesn't bother giving him an answer, instead dropping into a low, predatory crouch as he begins manipulating the elements themselves. It's clear to everyone that the power dynamic has shifted forever. Green energy swirls around Aang's fist. He clenches his hand tight with a surge of intent, and the ground suddenly erupts into a nightmare of jagged, twisting wood. These aren't just simple trees. They're sentient weapons of war that hunt the blue demon down in a matter of seconds. The demon tries to dodge the assault, but he's slammed into a solid wall and pinned by the massive organic pillars. He's completely stuck, looking totally helpless and shocked that a human recruit could ever possess this kind of raw, ancient force. Ong looks at his own hand. He admits to himself that this fight isn't even hard anymore, which is honestly the scariest part of this dark transformation. The blue demon is wheezing now, choking out broken words about being strangled as the roots crush his ribcage. Ong just stands there with a vacant, terrifying look, telling him to keep struggling while he watches the monster's life force wither away. With one final, terrifying command of power, everything explodes in a blinding flash. The demon is completely disintegrated in a massive boom that echoes through the trees, leaving nothing but a smoking crater behind. A massive blast sends debris flying everywhere as the dust finally starts to settle. Ong isn't letting up for a second, catching the blue one-fin demon completely off guard with a follow-up strike that sends the monster reeling. The demon looks like he's seen a ghost, stumbling back as he realizes Aang's attacks are actually infused with wood-type elemental energy. It's a total shock to his system because humans shouldn't be able to cycle through powers this fast. Aang's silhouette flashes against a deep red background as he delivers a brutal, bone-shattering kick. He's moving with a speed that defies logic, turning the demon's own arrogance into a death trap. The blue demon is screaming now, shouting that this level of raw energy isn't something a mere human can control, it's pure demonic power. As the monster gets slammed into the surrounding trees, the wood literally splinters into toothpicks under the pressure of the collision. A dark smirk spreads across Aang's face while he watches his opponent struggle to find his footing. He isn't just winning, he's enjoying the absolute chaos he's inflicting on this high-tier predator. Another heavy impact rocks the area, sending a spray of blood and stone into the air as the demon gets pinned. The momentum has shifted so hard that the predator has officially become the prey, and there's no way out for the monster. Ong hunches over as a terrifying red aura begins to leak from his very skin. He calmly agrees with the demon's assessment, acknowledging that this dark energy is indeed foreign to him. But then, a literal horn sprouts from his head as his eyes glow with a predatory light, revealing his true nature as the reincarnated strongest warrior. He admits he's still learning the ropes of this demonic strength, but since he's a fast learner, he's going to master this corruption right here and now. Green electricity crackles around Aang's dark silhouette. He leans into the corruption, calmly announcing his plan to study and master this demonic energy in real time while they fight. The blue demon actually stammers in total disbelief, realizing Ong just pulled off wood-type self-regeneration to knit his shattered flesh back together. It's a terrifying, high-level adaptation that shouldn't be possible. Ong just smirks, clenching his fist while reminding the monster that he's always been a world-class learner. Dark boots shatter the dry ground. Without another word, Ong vanishes into a high-speed blur, closing the distance before the demon can even process the shift in momentum. He's moving with a raw, violent agility that completely defies his human physiology and previous limits. This isn't just a simple counterattack anymore, it's a total predatory shift where the monster finally realizes he's the one being hunted. A massive blue tail slams into stone. The blue demon swings with everything he has, desperately trying to pin down the flickering shadow dancing around his heavy strikes. Ong scales the vertical cliffside with impossible grace, using the jagged terrain to slingshot himself back into the heart of the fray. The demon's frustration is peaking because his superior strength means absolutely nothing if he can't actually land a clean hit. A jagged shadow hangs in the air. Before the beast can even rotate his head to defend, Ong materializes directly in his blind spot, looking more like a demon king than a human soldier. The blue demon can only let out a panicked, "Huh," as he feels the chilling, murderous presence looming right behind him. The tables haven't just turned in this battle. The very concept of who is the monster has been completely rewritten. Aang's hand clamps onto blue skin. He catches the demon's massive wrist with zero effort, digging his fingers in until the muscle starts to tear. The blue demon actually lets out a high-pitched eek, sounding more like a terrified animal than a high-tier predator. Aang doesn't even blink, leaning in close to whisper a cold, chilling shoo right into the monster's face. It's a total power move that completely breaks the demon's spirit before the physical beating even begins. Massive green energy waves explode. Aang slams the beast straight into the rocky ground, and the impact is so violent that the bedrock beneath them just turns to dust. Bright flares of jade light erupt from the point of contact, blinding everything in the vicinity as a massive shockwave ripples outward through the forest. This isn't a normal exchange of blows, it's a total demolition of a supposed superior being. The blue demon can't even find the breath to scream as he's pinned down by a raw, elemental force. Dark red mist swirls around. Aang stands over the mangled remains of his enemy, his silhouette looking more like a demon lord than the human soldier he's supposed to be. A strange blue essence or core swirls through the air, highlighting the absolute destruction left in his wake. Aang delivers one final, decisive strike that cuts through the lingering energy like glass. His focus remains inward, feeling the demonic power he tapped into starting to claw at his own sanity and sense of self. He knows exactly this. He's savoring the moment, letting out a chilling, manic laugh that sounds like it belongs to a villain. He grinds the remaining shards of the demon's heart between his fingers like they're nothing but common glass. Thick, dark energy begins to coil around Aang's silhouette. Instead of fighting the pressure, he leans into it, literally begging the darkness to make him even stronger. The threat of the blue demon is gone, but the real nightmare is just starting to take shape. As those demonic thoughts finally begin to invade Aang's psyche, we're left wondering if the hero we've been rooting for is still even human. Aang stands silhouetted against a moon. He's standing perfectly still among a forest of jagged wooden spikes that have impaled the earth. The silence of the night is completely shattered by the raw power radiating from his body. Suddenly, blue ice shards explode across the battlefield as his restraint finally snaps. This isn't just a power-up, it's a total mental break. Aang tilts his head back and erupts into a chilling laugh, his eyes glowing red as demonic fangs sharpen. He's trading his soul for the strength to crush everything in his path. A red horn tears through his hair. Skeletal red hands reach out to claim his soul as the title card flashes across the screen. He isn't running from the darkness anymore, he's inviting it in. Aang casually bites down on a pulsating demon core, his hair flashing silver as the demonic energy integrates into his body. The way he looks at the core is like a starving man finally finding a feast. He wipes his mouth and admits the taste isn't that bad for something so cursed. He's no longer just playing a role, he's actively enjoying the evolution. Situ Lu lies in glowing light. She's out cold while strange, blue energy ribbons dance through the air like predatory spirits. The girl is completely defenseless against whatever comes next. Aang watches her, his eyes now a cold, predatory yellow that feels completely alien. He looks down at his hands, feeling the shift in his very soul as the darkness takes root. He mutters a dark mantra, noting that while humans kill, demons are meant to devour. It leaves a heavy question. Which side of that line does he fall on now? The boy who entered this gate is officially gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. Darkness swirls around a jagged black silhouette. Aang is losing himself to the transformation while the ground literally cracks under the spiritual pressure. It's a brutal reminder that this kind of power always comes with a heavy price. He looks down to see Situ Lu lying completely helpless. If he doesn't regain control of his body right now, his commander is going to be the first one on his hit list. Aang clutches his face with monstrous claws. His mind is a total war zone as he screams at the bastard inside him to stop. It's a terrifying sight watching a hero fight his own hands just to keep from killing. He realizes the demon is trying to force him to murder his own ally. He lets out a guttural roar, practically tearing at his own skull to kick the entity out of his head. The red eight-finned king watches calmly. He looks almost amused as he observes Aang's pathetic struggle to hold on to his humanity. To a monster like him, this isn't a tragedy, it's just a high-stakes evolution experiment. He finds the boy's resistance interesting. It's clear the king isn't done playing with his new favorite vessel just yet. Heavy smoke rises over the massive fortifications. While Aang fights for his soul, the rest of the city is finally descending into a full-blown military crisis. The demon swarm has reached the gates and they are tearing through the outer defenses. Soldiers are throwing every ounce of energy they have at the red tide of monsters. It's absolute chaos, and honestly, the real nightmare is only just beginning. Shadowy demons climb high stone walls. The defense is buckling as monsters pour into the city with zero hesitation. Jiao Tang is losing his mind because Team 9 is the only squad that hasn't reported for duty yet. He's scanning the horizon, but there's no sign of them. If his recruits don't show up in the next few minutes, this entire sector is going to collapse under the pressure. Glowing eyes watch from the shadows. Word quickly spreads through the panicking ranks that 2 warriors actually snuck out of the city right before the massive lockdown began. Jiao Tang's face twists into a look of pure horror when he realizes the trouble they're in. He knows better than anyone that being caught outside during an evolution event is basically a slow, painful death sentence. Steel blades flash against dark skin. The soldiers are struggling to understand why 2 lethal one-fin demons chose this specific moment to appear. A massive blue monster lunges over the barricade with its jaws wide open and its claws ready to rip. The front line is absolute carnage, and it's becoming clear that the military wasn't prepared for a coordinated strike of this magnitude. Red hair streaks through the air. Dada Jiao dives straight into the middle of the swarm to carve a path for her comrades with her blades. She screams for Tang Tang and Joel to keep their focus while checking the status of their energy cores. They are burning through power at an unsustainable rate just to stay upright, and honestly, the real wave hasn't even hit the city gates yet. Heavy boots smash into the dirt. Tang Tang is feeling the absolute burn as his yellow eyes flare with desperate intensity. He knows his energy core is reaching its limit, and honestly, the math isn't looking good for the rest of the squad either. Every massive explosion of power carries a heavy price, and they are redlining their bodies just to keep the swarm at bay before the city walls. Red energy trails follow every strike. Dada Jiao cuts a bloody path back to the group, thanking her lucky stars she and Tang Tang already neutralized the one-fin demon earlier. If that boss was still on the field, their exhausted cores wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes against this wave. She regroups with the boys, breathing hard while asking Joel for their next tactical move. Joel stares down the approaching monsters. He notices the demons are attacking aimlessly because they've lost their commander, making them nothing more than a leaderless mob. This is the opening they need to flip the script and stop playing defense. Joel decides it's time to teach these beasts what the fear of death actually feels like, letting his dark blue aura surge as he prepares for an explosive counteroffensive. A sharp smirk crosses Dada's face. She is completely on board with the plan to go on the offensive, and with a quick agreement, the trio launches a coordinated strike. Massive shockwaves of energy rip through the front lines of the monsters, tearing them apart in a display of pure, high-tier military power. It's no longer a desperate stand, it's a message that the city isn't going down without a fight. Jiao Tang lunges forward with glowing eyes. He screams at the team to make these bastards explode while slamming his full power into the dirt. A massive pillar of red energy erupts from the impact, incinerating anything within 30 feet. From an aerial view, a swirling purple vortex of debris and energy swallows the remaining monsters, proving that the commanders aren't playing games anymore. Honestly, the raw scale of this attack is just on another level. Jiao Tang catches his breath among the smoke. He notes that after the one-fin demon fight, this is already the second time they've been forced to utilize their cores at maximum output. It's a huge gamble for their physical health, but the alternative is watching the city burn. Joel steps forward next, his frame crackling with a sharp, blue electrical aura. He admits that while the red cores are the most explosive, he has his own way of dealing with a crowd. Beams of blue light slice through the darkness. Joel's energy doesn't just explode, it pierces, weaving through the demon swarm with terrifying, surgical precision. Each blue streak represents a dozen dead monsters falling in his wake. From the sidelines, Suizhou Yuhui is completely awestruck by the sheer violence of it all. It's the first time she's seen the squadron leaders in a real fight, and it's pretty clear the gap between a recruit and a commander is basically a canyon. A gloved hand clenches tight. Suizhou Yuhui is watching the commanders from the sidelines, her heart racing as she realizes the sheer distance between her skills and theirs. Joel and Dada Jiao aren't even breaking a sweat, they're actually joking about having a good time while their blades carve a path through the monsters. Joel's eyes glow with a calculated intensity as he confirms that their strategy is working. The demon swarm is finally losing its momentum under their relentless, high-speed assault. Dark silhouettes stand against smoke. The tide officially turns as the massive demon wave is forced into a full-scale retreat by the military's top brass. It's a sight that seemed impossible just minutes ago, but the squadron leaders have effectively broken the monsters' will to fight. The surrounding soldiers can't help but cheer at the top of their lungs, praising the commanders as the city's ultimate shields. For a brief moment, it feels like the team has actually won the day. A giant, veined eye dilates. Just as the commanders think they can finally breathe, a terrifying surge of energy erupts from the center of the clearing. Everyone's heads snap toward the source of the noise, questioning if a final, high-tier demon has been lying in wait. A massive cloud of dust kicks up, hiding a presence so heavy it makes the previous Demon King look like a complete joke. The victory cheers die out instantly as the temperature on the battlefield drops to freezing. Ong holds Situ-Lu tightly. He stands there in the middle of the carnage, looking more like a god of death than a simple human recruit. Joel stares in total disbelief, realizing the person who actually saved the day isn't an elite officer, but the kid they all look down on. Aang's face is partially shadowed, highlighting his glowing eyes and those new, striking silver streaks in his hair. The commanders can only scream his name as they realize the power Aang is channeling is something that could change their world forever. Joel's jaw drops in pure shock. He and the other commanders watch as the smoke clears, revealing a scene that shouldn't be possible. Aang isn't just standing there anymore, his presence is shifting into something monstrously dark. It's like the eight-finned king is trying to wear the kid like a suit. This isn't just a power-up, it's a total demonic takeover that's scaring the life out of the veterans. Aang walks out of the debris. He's cradling an unconscious Situ-Lu against his chest while his eyes flare with a haunting, neon pink glow. Joel can't even believe his own eyes, whispering that no recruit should have this kind of raw, unfiltered aura. The kid is walking through a literal hellscape like he owns the place. Honestly, the commanders are starting to wonder if they're looking at a savior or a brand new threat. Massive demons lunge from the shadows. Even with a swarm of hungry monsters snapping at him, Aang protects Situ-Lu with a grip that looks unbreakable. From high above, the elite officers are paralyzed by the sheer pressure radiating off this one boy. It's a total shift in a food chain. The weakling they ignored is now the only thing standing between them and a massacre. Dark energy flows around his legs. He moves through the battlefield with a cold, predatory grace that makes the demons look like target practice. When one monster finally dares to get too close, Aang doesn't even break his stride. He simply tells it to get lost before a violent red slash erases the creature from existence. This is no longer a rescue mission. It's a slaughter led by a boy who has officially left his humanity behind. Jagged red streaks slash across the dark battlefield. Aang's eyes flare with a terrifying demonic light as he carves through the remaining monsters with a cold, focused rage. He's moving with a predatory speed that makes the high-tier demons look like they're practically standing still. With every violent swing, his strikes leave behind jagged red trails, turning the once deadly swarm into a pile of mangled limbs in seconds. It's not even a fight anymore. It's a systematic execution led by a boy who is clearly losing his grip on his own humanity. Situ-Lu reaches out toward Aang's glowing back. She catches him just as his body begins to buckle from the sheer, violent output of the eight-finned king's demonic energy. She's staring at him with a mix of awe and pure terror because she realizes her teammate is becoming something far worse than the things they're actually fighting. A core-like light pulses through his suit, signaling that this evolution is pushing his physical limits past the point of no return. This level of power shouldn't exist in a human vessel, and the toll it's taking on his soul is becoming painfully obvious. Massive stone walls overlook the now silent battlefield. High on the ramparts, the military officers watch in stunned silence as the entire demon wave suddenly turns tail and flees into the darkness. They were prepared for a bloody final stand, but the monsters are acting like they've just seen the god of death himself. A soldier finally screams out the confirmation that the enemy is in a full retreat, finally breaking the heavy, tense quiet of the night. The city might be safe for now, but as the dust settles, the secret of Aang's true nature is about to become a massive political landmine for everyone involved. A young soldier looks up in confusion. The rookies are currently scratching their heads, wondering why the hell a winning demon horde just decided to quit. They're shouting about how the 3 squadron leaders must be legendary gods, but Ji Yaotang isn't buying the hype for a second. He stands there with those glowing yellow eyes, feeling a lingering pressure in the air that definitely didn't come from any of his peers. It's a terrifying thought that their supposed rescue was actually performed by a single student. He stares into the smoke, specifically looking for Aang to confirm his suspicions. Aang exhales a thick plume of breath. His silhouette is sharp against the gray sky as he struggles to maintain his grip on his fading consciousness. He's got Situ-Lu tucked securely against his chest, ignoring his own shattered physical limits just to keep her from hitting the dirt. With a sudden burst of demonic force, he vaults into the air, clearing the debris in one massive, bone-jarring movement. The sheer speed of the escape leaves the onlookers stunned as they watch him disappear into the night. It's a frantic, silent race against a total biological meltdown. 3 commanders sprint across the rubble. Ji Yaotang barks out that they'll handle the explanations later, because right now, survival is the only priority for the survivors. But as the physical world fades, Aang finds himself sinking into a literal psychological nightmare. He's floating in a dark, crimson ocean facing a mountain-sized skull that looks like it belongs to an ancient, dead god. A voice cuts through the silence, claiming they actually met half a century ago. The mystery of Aang's past life is finally catching up to his present, and the cost of that memory might be his very sanity. A massive slit pupil eye narrows. Aang asks just how many 8-finned demons are out there, but the entity tells him he'll learn the truth soon enough. It finally introduces itself as the Crimson-Finned King, a name that carries the weight of 1,000 nightmares. This isn't just a monster, it's the absolute peak of the demonic hierarchy. Aang's glowing yellow eyes remain steady. The king is actually impressed that this kid isn't paralyzed with fear, which explains how Aang's mind was strong enough to reject the demon's initial takeover. Aang demands to know why he was the one chosen and what's happening to his physical form as his hair turns white. Honestly, he's more worried about his identity than his survival right now. Sharp red claws grip Aang's jaw. The king leans in close to drop the bombshell that Aang's body isn't just his anymore, it's now shared property. He tells Aang that he needs to put in the work to evolve his form if he wants to handle the power. It's a sick kind of mentorship where the price of admission is Aang's very soul. A clawed hand reaches toward light. The king wants Aang to become a perfect being just like him, essentially discarding his human limits to reach a higher state of existence. But Aang isn't buying the sales pitch for a second, even while sitting defeated on the ground. He looks the demon in the eye and asks why he thinks so little of humanity. The war for Aang's body is officially moving into a whole new phase. Aang lunges forward with wide eyes. He's still trapped in that demonic nightmare and screams at the top of his lungs, ready to kill anything in sight. The crazy part is he doesn't even realize he's in a hospital until he's already pinned Situ Lu to the bed. He's gripping her collar so hard her clothes are basically shredded, and the cold-blooded leader looks completely mortified. It's an absolute disaster of a wake-up call. Aang's face goes completely pale. The realization of what he's just grabbed hits him like a freight train, and honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. Before he can even apologize, the family guards lose their minds and swarm him like a pack of wolves. They're screaming about cutting off his hands for touching their young miss, and they aren't looking for excuses. They're ready to end him right there on the floor. High-ranking officers stand in line. Joel and the others watch as a massive, suffocating presence enters the room, silencing the chaos with a single word. Everyone freezes in their tracks when Situ Lu looks up and calls the man father. This isn't just some random high-tier soldier stepping in to break up a fight. This is the head of the most powerful martial arts sect in the entire city. Aang stares up with confused eyes. He's trying to piece together why a living legend is standing over his bed, especially after he just accidentally harassed the man's daughter. Joel steps in to officially introduce him as Situ Sun Gong, the powerhouse leading the Situ family. As Aang's golden eye flares, he realizes this man hasn't just been visiting, he's been personally monitoring Aang's demonic evolution while he was unconscious. The real test is only just beginning. A bearded man in white robes laughs heartily while gesturing toward the bed. Situ Sun Gong isn't just some scary elder. He's actually showing a surprisingly human side. He formally thanks Aang for risking his life to save Situ Lu, acknowledging the massive debt the Situ family now owes the young recruit for his bravery. Honestly, it's a rare moment of peace, seeing the most powerful man in the city drop his guard to offer a genuine, heartfelt thank you. The imposing sect head stands comfortably between the high-ranking officers in the infirmary. He treats the commanders like his own family, telling them the Situ dojo is always their home since he's watched them all grow up together. Then, he drops a hilarious bomb, calling his own daughter's personality prickly, and telling Tang Tang to punish her accordingly if she acts out during training. Situ Lu just clicks her tongue in the corner, looking absolutely done with her dad's embarrassing public roasts. A wide view reveals the traditional wooden interior of the high-stakes hospital room. Tung Tung's face hardens as he pivots the conversation toward the bloody reality of the recent demon wave and that specific one-finned monster Aang killed. He knows Aang is the common denominator in these disasters and needs to know exactly what the kid is hiding. But before the veteran can press him any further, Joel steps forward with a cold, calculated look, announcing that he'll be the one handling this interrogation from here on out. Joel's pink eye fixes intensely on Aang's face as the atmosphere shifts. He doesn't care about the Situ family's gratitude or the heroic stories, he only cares about the terrifying energy he sensed on the battlefield. Behind him, a massive, red demonic silhouette looms like a ghost, reflecting the monster he suspects is hiding inside the boy. He leans in close, cutting through the silence with the one question that could end Aang's life. Are you a demon? Everything stops as the secret Aang's been desperately hiding is finally dragged out into the open. Joel stares directly at Aang. He drops the bombshell, asking if Aang is actually a demon. The room freezes as horrific monsters flash through the commander's mind. One wrong answer here means instant death. The commanders loom over him. Aang sits calmly while Joel and Dada Jiao analyze his every breath. They're hunting for demonic energy, but Aang keeps his poker face locked tight despite the pressure. Aang suddenly lets out a laugh. He claims it's a joke, saying he barely escaped a one-finned demon while Tang Tang and Gel did the real work. He's selling the survivor act, but will Joel actually buy it? Joel's heavy boots click on the floor. He leans in, demanding to know how a weakling soloed a demon to save Situ Lu. Aang stays silent, realizing his survivor story is full of holes. If he slips up now, his cover is blown instantly. A glowing purple eye stares Aang down. Joel drops the hammer, accusing him of being a demon accomplice. Aang panics, wondering if he has to reveal his reincarnation. But revealing that secret here is a literal suicide mission. Jagged red energy swirls in Aang's mind. He knows they'll never believe he's human while he houses the eight-finned king. To the military, he isn't a hero, he's just a monster. He needs a better lie before they pull the trigger. A glowing golden hand looms over Ong. Joel threatens to use force if he doesn't speak up immediately. Ong clenches his fist, debating whether to reveal his true power. One wrong move and this room becomes a slaughterhouse. Red-haired Dada Jiao interrupts the tension. She explains that only 4-fin demons can mimic humans, which Ong clearly isn't. It makes no sense for a high-level threat to hide in a weak C-rank city. The logic is sound, but Joel still looks unconvinced. 3 commanders stand over the exhausted recruit. They agree that demons are too selfish to save a comrade, yet Ong risked everything for Situlu. Joel finally relents, admitting he was just teasing the kid to see his reaction. He's safe for now, but he's definitely being watched. Dada Jiao mocks the room for being too serious while Joel admits Ong cheated death. Joel's tone shifts back to business as he reveals Situlu remembers nothing after fainting. This leaves Ong as the sole witness to the fight. The commander leans in, looming over the bed to demand how a low-rank recruit actually snatched her from certain death. Dada Jiao towers over him, her gaze sharp as she asks how he really beat that demon. Aang's golden eyes flash while he cooks up a story. He sits back casually, claiming he was so focused on the monster inside him that he forgot normal limits. He caps it off with a cocky smirk, telling them the truth is simple. He's just a genius. Ong sticks his tongue out, doubling down on his genius act. He is playing the part of a brat to keep the commanders off balance. He quickly pivots, claiming his body can instantly absorb core energy for power. It is a calculated lie to hide his reincarnation. Dada Jiao narrows her eyes, comparing his claim to their armor. Honestly, she is just scanning him for a single lie. Ong keeps a straight face, praying they buy this nonsense. One slip up and his cover is blown. Joel laughs at him, admitting that Ong might actually be a prodigy. He is finally starting to lower his guard. Ong claims this power killed the previous demon, though it always knocks him unconscious afterward. He is successfully framing his power as a lucky fluke. Joel stares with intense golden eyes. He's weighing the story, wondering if Ong is just some freak genius. If the power surge shattered his chest core, it explains the blackouts. Dada Jiao warns that even elite captains struggle to control that much energy. Basically, Ong is playing with fire. Joel stands beside the red-haired commander. He isn't fully sold, so he orders Ong to the arena for a test. A predatory red aura swirls around him as they head out. Under the moonlight, Ong tightens his gloves, knowing this is just a trap to expose him. He has to fight a commander without revealing his past life. Ong adjusts the red core on his chest. The commander lunges forward with a heavy stomp that shakes the arena. He's clearly trying to force a reaction. Aang's new body is struggling just to process the sheer pressure of the incoming attack. Ong offers a strained, sweaty smile. Mentally, he's frustrated because his current stats can't execute even the most basic fundamentals of his past life. He's a king trapped in a weak vessel. He looks down at his core, wondering if he should finally unleash the demonic energy hiding inside. A massive crimson energy flash erupts. Before he can choose, a brutal strike forces his hand, turning this spar into a total disaster. The resulting shockwave is absolute overkill. If he doesn't balance this power right now, he's going to blow his own cover. Ong skids across the floor. He slams his foot down to kill the momentum while red energy swirls around his boots. This isn't a casual spar anymore, it's a total demolition. A massive red shockwave erupts. Ong watches in shock as the blast wave shreds the training ground right in front of his face. The onlookers are genuinely terrified, wondering if the commander is actually trying to murder a new recruit. A deep trench divides the room. Dada Jiao screams at the giant, Tang Tang, to stop before he levels the place. Tang Tang just looms over Ong, casually praising his reaction time like he didn't just almost vaporize him. But honestly, how did a recruit even survive that? Ong stands dwarfed by Tang Tang. He knows his survival is thanks to his past life's instincts, but this weak vessel is already redlining. Just as he hits his limit, the commander's aura flares crimson. Tang Tang winds up a massive fist, promising to finally get serious. A massive red shockwave erupts. The arena floor disintegrates under the pressure as a cataclysmic strike hammers down. It's a total demolition site, with dust and stone shards masking the absolute carnage. Ong slides through the rubble. Onlookers are horrified as the giant treats the floor like his own personal wrecking ball. Every punch is a death sentence, but Ong is still weaving through the impact zones. He's dancing on the edge, and one mistake ends it all. A massive hand crushes Aang's throat. The brute mocks his weakness, and Ong realizes his current body simply can't break the hold. He gets hurled across the arena, hitting the deck hard. Ong skids violently across the floor. He's tumbling through a cloud of dust, struggling to find his footing after that impact. It's a brutal display of pure physical dominance. Joel watches the fight with concern. He's ready to end the test, but Dada Jiao wants to see if Ong has any fight left. Meanwhile, the opponent keeps screaming, mocking Aang's genius status as he charges up for another blow. Ong crouches low as dust swirls. His opponent keeps mocking his genius title, but Ong is officially done playing nice. He remembers being a king in his past life, and this kid's arrogance is starting to get old. To pass this evaluation, he needs to prove he's on another level. It's finally time to stop holding back. A dark shadow covers Aang's eyes. He decides to secretly tap into the eight-finned king's demonic power to end this. A violent red aura suddenly explodes as he jokes about being a 200-month-old kid. His chest core begins to glow with a terrifying light. He's about to show them a real monster. The actual fight starts now. Violent red energy swirls around Aang. Ji Yaotang feels the pressure shift and realizes the kid isn't playing anymore. Aang casually announces it is his turn to attack as his aura flares into demonic wings. He is done testing his armor, now he is hunting. A massive red phantom towers over Aang. His golden eyes glow with ancient hunger while his chest core burns white-hot. Ji Yaotang is paralyzed, finally recognizing that this terrifying energy belongs to a literal monster. This is not a recruit, it is the return of a king. A crimson explosion swallows the entire arena. Aang lunges forward, delivering a strike so fast it shatters the very air. The screen fades to black as the facility trembles from the impact. Make sure to subscribe to see if Aang just exposed his secret to the entire world.